entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Ready for some more entertainment? Thought I'd go with the classic one today. How can it be any more entertaining than last Wednesday? Oh boy, I'm going to get in trouble today. Today's going to be the day. I think I'll be okay, but I'm going to piss some people off today. Don't I always, though? Are women just children? Should they be? Should we just consider them children? I don't know. Hi there. Oh, yes. Thank you very much. All right. That's enough of that. All right. I'm sure some fine critic is going to say, well, Rollo always has to have applause. No, I don't. No. It's just part of that. It's part of the thing. It's part of the intro, man. You know what? You don't like the blue light, Tony? Should I go with the red? Just to, before I get started off here, I constantly get this asked in the comment section, and right now is when everybody watches, so I might as well get it out of the way. When people ask me about the music in the beginning of this show, I without fail, every show somebody says, "Where can I get that? That's not on Trial of Ascension's Spotify." Yeah, no, it's not. It's actually something I did a very long time ago. Back in 2006, 2007, something like that. And just something I worked up with an old band that I used to play in back in Orlando, in Florida. And never did anything with it, never amounted to much. So what I did is I kind of butchered it apart, because when I first started this show, I needed some kind of intro music, I thought anyways. And that's what I used. And so I started putting little sound clips and stuff in front of it. But the music is original. And but that's one thing. And the other thing is the good news is I've brought it to brung it to the band, and we want to do it. We want to do a sort of a revision of it. And so we'll be putting that on the next EP if all goes well. We're actually writing new music. We've got 8 songs now. If you go on to Spotify and you look at Trial of Ascension, you'll find that link definitely in the description. So that's number one. So I wanted to clarify that, because I constantly get that. Oh, are you getting echo on me? I don't think you're getting echo on me. Give me a heads up or heads up. Sam, am I doing echo right now? Because I have cancellation on right now. It's good. Thank you. We're good. Okay. All right. No problem. All righty. So that's number one. Number two, of course, is the announcement that Audible version of Religion is now up on Audible and available. So if you are, I'm going to actually read an excerpt from my 4th book, which is Religion. 5th book is still in edits right now. I'm going through second rounds of edits, and this is where I sort of clip out the things that I think are kind of extraneous. And so honestly, the editing process of a book takes longer, I think, than the writing process. So that's coming up as well. And what else do I got going on? I think that's it. So let's get started today. I wanted to I brought this. Yeah, is that a spicy thumbnail? I think it kind of is. I did that on purpose, of course, as you know. You got to put faces on a thumbnail these days. I feel pretty confident that that's the formula. That's definitely the formula. I have Sam Bada is in the house. He's dropping the band hammer. I think I have Samishi dropping the band hammer too, and which I expect a lot of today. Did you guys check out? Anybody see Wednesday's show? That was Wednesday's premiere. I think I confuse people because they think that it's a live show at that time. And that's not a live show. I will never, I don't say never, but I rarely do real live shows on Wednesdays. I would much rather do, I try to focus on things and to sort of give them the due that I think that they should. One of the reasons why this usually ends up as like a 2.5, 3 hour podcast on Sundays is because I want to get to everything. I'm always struggling to be concise and comprehensive at the same time. And I always err on the side of comprehensiveness. So yeah, sometimes I do, as you know, I sometimes stray. But I think that it's important. And you'll also notice that I do a lot of prefacing for like whatever the topic is to begin with. I'm not going to do that today because I kind of want to catch up with some of the stuff that I didn't actually get to in Wednesday's video. Devil Mountain Coffee. There's your plug. So I did a show, just sort of a breakdown show, and I got a little heated, and a lot of people loved it. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you're just lowering yourself, Rollo. Don't sully your brand with these idiots." Well, every now and then you need to make an example of these guys, because if you don't, then the guys who are unfamiliar with your work, or the guys who are really searching for this stuff. And remember, we don't advertise in the Manosphere. You don't see it on a billboard. You don't see it on unless you're on YouTube and you get it thrown up in your sort of your impressions or whatever, your suggested videos. You kind of have to seek it out. And it's been my experience that a lot of guys who are struggling are usually at a point of crisis at that time. And there's a lot of bad information out there, which we're going to cover today, by the way. However, I felt it was necessary, and I will continue to do those things as I see them being necessary. Now, I'm trying to keep those as rare as possible, but every now and then, I think that, guys, and you guys can let me know in the chat or in the comments here, whether I'm out of line here, because I think a lot of people really got something out of Wednesday's show simply because I'm correcting people. I'm certainly correcting my language and correcting the straw men and correcting the let's just say in most cases, the deliberate misconstruction of what I've said. And I'm going to correct one of those today. Now, that's kind of the preface for today. Now, the other part is this is, as a result, one of the things that I said on Wednesday's show is that the most misquoted, the most misunderstood aspects, I think, of the red pill at this point, or whatever's becoming of the Manosphere right now, is I get misquoted primarily for the 99 Rules of Tomassi, because that's what everybody usually goes back to. There's not a guy right now, and I don't care who it is. I don't care who your superhero is or whoever it is your primary follow is. I hope it's me, but if it's not me, a lot of the guys who are in this sphere use my material as their source material. Again, I've said this in the past. I'll repeat it right now. The red pill is open source as far as I am concerned. If you're gonna outright plagiarize my work, then I'm going to have a problem with that. If you want to attribute, great. If you don't want to attribute and you want to put your own spin on it, that's fine. But at least do your homework. This is a class, right? That's I try to make Sunday shows sort of as collegiate, right, as university class as I possibly can. However, Sir Mr. Jason's already in the house. What's going on, brother? I downloaded your 4th book. Thank you. And I got The Ape That Understood the Universe. That's a really kick-ass book, by the way. What I'm working on another book right now. I mean, reading another book right now, and I'm going to actually mention it today. It's by Dr. David Buss, who is he's one of these evolutionary psychologists that I kind of get frustrated with, but he is a consummate statistician and he knows his stuff. He is one of the bigger names, I think, in that sphere, in the evolutionary psychology sphere. And he's got a book called Men Behaving Badly, or Why Men Behave Badly. I think it's Men Behaving Badly. And of course, it's written from the perspective of an evolutionary psychologist, and it is very informative, but it's also written from the perspective that men are bad, right? Masculinity bad. And I mentioned something to this effect when I was doing the breakdown of the Brett Weinstein and Amy Hayer, I guess that's her name, husband and wife, surname noted. And they're evolutionary biologists. And as I said, the red pill is sort of this multidisciplinary field or multi-field discipline, right? I guess was what you would call it. And so you get evo bio, you get evo psych, you get sociology, you get anthropology, you get all that stuff that I've rattled off a million times. So these guys are part of that sphere. They're part of that crew. And I think it's a really good book thus far. I'm about a third of the way into it. I'll let you guys know what I think, but it is a trend right now in TradCon circles to lay blame or lay the condition of women at the feet of men. And I have done several podcasts on this very topic. I've got actually, I was writing about this topic, I think as far back as 2016 or 2017 when I actually maybe even before that, but I wrote an essay called Our Sister's Keeper. And it was at that time that I was beginning to think, you know what, I understand why, in particularly in TradCon circles, but in general, I understand why it is that women want to lay the state of the world at men's feet. Because we're going to talk about that today, because that is primary to what is known, and not a term I came up with, is primary to a term that is known as the innate male protector dynamic. When I was discussing this, I originally started discussing this with Pat Campbell, I think as far back as like 2018. And we were discussing, I think it was on it might have been on his show. I think it was the shooting there was a shooting that was in at a country bar. I think it was in like Reseda or Woodland Hills or something like that in California. And again, in this mass shooting, there were unfortunately casualties, but men would throw themselves in front of women that they didn't know. They would put themselves bodily in front of women so they would take the bullet instead of the woman. And I don't think I've dedicated a full show to this, but the male protector dynamic is, I think, intrinsic to the reason why today in the manosphere, men are saying, you could say PUAs, game, black pill, MGTOW, whatever part of the manosphere, think that there's this consensus that women are children, that we should just treat them as if they're children. They're emotional children, and if you treat them as such, you'll do better. And I think that first of all, that gets a little skewed. And I'm gonna bring up Lauren Southern. I at the beginning of the video on Wednesday, I started off with this hack job video that the white pill nerds were throwing at me, and they are, Rollo just got butchered by Lauren Southern in this interview, and it's like, no. I put out points that I think pretty much everybody else, and we're having a disagreement right here. And they can talk about and put words in my mouth and put words in her mouth and put their interpretation all over it. But the fact remains is that when I'm talking to her, I'm bringing up topics, and I'm bringing up we're having a clash of ideals here. That's number one. I'm approaching this from a rational, informational-based thing. She's approaching her points from a believer's kind of position. I mentioned that 2 episodes ago, the differences between an empiricist and the difference between believers having a conversation with different goals while still believing that we have mutual goals. So I'm discussing this with her, and at one point she, of course, wants to talk about Iron Rule of Tomassi number 3, which I didn't get to in Wednesday's video because I was focusing on some other stuff. I was focusing on Assbag from Playing with Fire. Okay, so but I believe I covered what I was number 2, number 4, but I didn't cover number 3, and I just kind of hinted at number 1. So it's occurred to me that I really need to do a series, possibly, based on the 9 Iron Rules of Tomassi, so that there is no wiggle room, no room for misinterpretation or deliberate corruption, distortion of anything that I've said. I watched the video again. I kind of reviewed the video of Wednesday's show, and I thought about this, and I said, that's what people want to hit me on the most. They think that's That's the plan, right? This is the Tomassi way to be red pill, and it's not. And I mentioned that at the very beginning of that, and I don't know how better to put that, but it also struck me that maybe I need to do a rule by rule episode so that people understand what exactly it says, because I can't expect everybody to read The Rational Male. Clearly, these guys haven't. Clearly, what's his face from Playing with Fire guy hasn't read the book, because if he had, he wouldn't be making either he has and he is deliberately malicious, or he hasn't and he's stupid. And never attribute to stupidity that which can be attributed to malice these days. So when I am watching this, I'm like, I really need to do a breakdown. And when I watched the beginning of this, I meant to do this on Wednesday's show, but I never got around to it. So I'm going to sort of start with a little bit of that today. I don't have the video queued up for that, but essentially what Lauren was asking me about was the third Iron Rule of Tomassi, which is any woman that makes you wait for sex, or by her actions is implying that she is making you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. So what are we going to do? We are going to go and we're going to read that rule really quickly, because that's where we're going to start off today. It might seem like a strange place to start off, but let's go here. All of which are available for free if you really want to read them. Okay, so this is initially from a post I wrote back in 2011. It was one of the earliest posts I ever wrote. It was September 23rd, 2011. So this is 10 years old. So bear that in mind. Iron Rule of Tomassi number 3. Any woman who makes you wait for sex, or by her actions implies that she is making you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. When a woman makes you wait for sex, you are not her highest priority. This is the rest of that rule. Sexuality is spontaneous chemical reaction between two parties, not a process of negotiation. What do I always say about negotiation and genuine desire? Class, I'll expect you to have that on your test. It's sex first, then relationship, not the other way around. Now, people will fight me on this all day long because they have different notions, or they have different, whatever it is, ethically, moral wise, whatever. Again, belief versus empiricism, because today, the vast majority of women and men follow this plan. It's sex first, then relationship, not the other way around. A woman who wants to bang you will find a way to bang you. She will fly across the country, crawl under barbed wire, climb in through your second-story bedroom window, bang the hell out of you, and wait patiently inside your closet if your wife comes home early from work. Women who want to bang you will find a way to bang you. And I'm saying that the nice way, because we're not at the 30-minute mark. A girl who tells you she needs to be comfortable and wants a relationship first is the same girl who banged the hot guy in the foam cannon party in Cancun on spring break just half an hour after meeting him. Congratulations. That's where that quote comes from. Now you know. Why does Rollo keep talking about the hot guy in the foam cannon party? Did he have some girl got picked up by, did he get some guy that swooped his girlfriend? No, that's where this is from. Okay. If a girl, and had you read The Rational Male, you would know this, because this is one of the most standout rules amongst all 9. I think this is probably the one that gets brought up the most. If a girl is that into you, she'll have sex with you regardless of ASD, which is anti-slut defense, or having her friends in the room videotaping it at a frat party. All women can be sluts. You just have to be the right guy to bring it out in them. And this happens before you go back to her place. If you have to plead your case, cuddling and spooning on the bed, or getting the occasional peck on the cheek at the end of the night, you need to go back to square one and start fresh. Now, had she read this, had she not gotten this from a third-party information, had that been available, had they taken the time to do the homework, we could have avoided all this nonsense. In fact, guys, anybody watching, honestly, I should probably have a prerequisite for people who say, I want to interview you, man. I want to debate you. Great. Tell you what, here's my book. I'll send it to you for free. Read the book, front cover to cover, then come at me. Those are the conditions for a debate from here on out. You say this. No, you heard that from some guy who distorted it, and it sounded like anger. It sounded like misogyny. It sounded like it was bad, bad, bad. So amongst this, as I'm having this conversation, I'm trying to explain to Lauren Southern about the intent of that rule, not what she presumed it was, because from a believer sense, from a ethical sense, from a team woman sense, it sounds like I am encouraging guys to go bang anything on two legs. And that is not what that rule is about. But you can't tell anyone else that, because they only want to hear what they only want to hear. So when I talk about it, and if you read the rest of the damn article, that's what I get into. You cannot negotiate genuine desire. If she doesn't have that genuine desire for you, there is something that is mitigating that. And guys will wait and go, oh, I waited her out and I was persevering. And, finally, when I was 30 and she was 28 and she just finished her journey of self-discovery on Tinder and college and everything else, wow, she had its great appreciation for me. She told me when we were 19 or 18 or whatever, that if we were 30 and we were still single, we would wait for each other, or we would promise to get married with each other. Ha ha, just like that episode of Friends with Ross and Rachel. That's what I'm talking about. That's what that rule is meant to illustrate. Not go bang girls willy-nilly. Plate theory, same thing. I should probably do a full episode, or maybe one or several episodes on plate theory. Guess what? There are 6 chapters to the plate theory section of The Rational Male. But what do we hear? You're dehumanizing women by calling them plates. You're encouraging non-exclusive dating. Yeah, exactly. I'm encouraging guys to date just like women do, to open their options up, to have a larger pool, so they don't get the soulmate sickness, so they don't get one-itis, so they will learn from the experiences that they have with women. I mentioned this on Rule 0 yesterday. There's a lot more to it than just, I got this girl coming in at 6, and I got this girl coming in at 9, and I got this girl coming in at midnight. That's not what plate theory is about. Had you read the actual section or the chapters or whatever, had you even read 3 of the 6, you probably would understand that and go, okay, I get it. I understand what he's talking about. But people are raging right now. They're raging because they think that it's like, well, men just would take more responsibility. We'd be out of this mess, man. Things would be better. And then, of course, pertinent to today's topic, Lauren Southern says, well, I hear guys in the manosphere telling other guys to treat women like children. What's that all about? Right? Thus, the inspiration for today's show, because that's a popular concept. And it was interesting to me to see how that got kind of mixed up in the outrage about Iron Rule of Tomassi number 3. But yeah, we do. We talk about that all the time. Actually, that's not even a Rule of Tomassi thing. That's not even really Manosphere thing. Well, early Manosphere, I guess. Back in the day, 3,000 years ago, Gandalf, I was listening to Mystery Method, or listening to some mystery videos. I think it was like it would have been 2005, somewhere around there. It was when mystery was in his heyday, and RSD was a thing, and old school pickup was a thing. And that's when the idea that, treat her like a bratty sister seemed like a good idea, right? I mean, that you wanted to have that kind of playfulness between you and that one. That was it was an observation, I think, that a lot of the early PUAs back then made, and it worked. And I wrote about this on a few occasions. Now, granted, I have an only child, so, but I also have a nephew and a niece who are pretty close in age to my daughter, and I watched them grow up, and I watched the dynamic between the two of them. Me being the junior, psychologist I am, I watched what was going on between the two of them, and even to this day, they are very protective of one another. They really, as much as a brother and sister really love each other, they really are. They do things together, and they my niece really is like, if something's going on with my nephew, she's very concerned with him, and I think it's fantastic. But when they're together, it's usually, punch in the shoulder and, that kind of stuff, where they're this kind of back and forth, where she kind of defers to his sort of dominance because he's the older brother, and he's also much taller and very well built, right? I mean, the guy is he works out, put it that way. So there's that back and forth, but the dynamic is that Bratty Sister dynamic that used to be talked about back in the day, that I think a lot of guys kind of missed out on. Now, if you're a guy and you're a brother of a sister, or maybe you're like, for me, I have one younger brother, and the dynamic between two brothers, I think, is different between a brother and a sister. And maybe it's the age thing as well. But the point I'm making here is that there is a protection, almost like a mate guarding protection. And don't take that the wrong way. What I mean is that, let's just say it's like family. It's a tribal kind of thing, where the brothers will protect the sisters from outside guys who want to come in and impregnate the sister, right? I'm talking about tribal ancestral past, right? But there's still that sense or that mentality that I got to protect her, or the father who wants to protect the daughter. I'm very protective of my daughter, right? I think a lot of people know that. But I think most guys, most fathers are going to be that way. You protect. It's not that you're not protective of your son, but you're protective in a different way. And there's a thank you, Steve Stewart Williams, for this. But there is I want to call it, I guess it's a psychological dynamic, or it's a social dynamic, which is called kin altruism. Go look it up. Kin affiliation, I think it is. And it goes something like this. You will probably, if you are married, or if you have a son or a daughter, you'll probably take a bullet for them. You'll probably do so. You probably sacrifice your own life altruistically, just sacrifice your own life for your son or your daughter. Direct lineage of you. Probably, depending on what your relationship is, you probably take a bullet for your wife or the mother of your children. Would you take a bullet for your father? Would you take a bullet for your mom? Would you take a bullet for your grandparents? Would you take a bullet for your niece or your nephew? And in what priority, like what degree of intensity would you go, no, yes, I would sacrifice my life for my niece. I would sacrifice my life for my best friend, right? So where along sort of the chain of command, like an order of importance, the priority of importance, are you willing to sacrifice like everything, like take a bullet from? And we don't really think about those things. Like, I think what it is like, it's depending on the degree of like your relatedness to that person is the degree to which you're willing to actually sacrifice yourself for the benefit of that person. And that goes down to the tribal level. Then, because of course your family is your first tribe. And then there's your extended family. And then there is your tribal family. And then there's your belief family. Like maybe you have everybody shares the same religion, if not the same bloodline. And then there's national affiliation. I'm Danish. I'm British. I'm whatever. There's that kind of, it's a tribal affiliation for sure. But by order of importance, it kind of like goes down the line. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because, as I was saying before, if you go and you look at incidences where, for instance, in Las Vegas, I think it's like 5 years now. Is it the 5-year anniversary now? The largest mass shooting in American history happened in Las Vegas about this time. And again, during that shooting, guys would go and fall on top of women that they didn't know and take a bullet for women so that they didn't die and the guy did. Now, this is just an instinctual thing. It's like an immediate in the moment kind of thing where men have this innate protector dynamic to sort of put themselves in front of danger, put them in harm's way, put themselves in harm's way for the benefit of women that they don't know. Now, people will have thrown this at me, and I understand. So I have to let's play both sides of this, okay? So when the Titanic was sinking, guys had time to think about this. They could have gone down with the ship, or they could have. There's plenty. I think it was one of the reports was that there was plenty of room in at least some of the lifeboats at that time. But the men were preferring to go down with the ship, so they didn't seem like they were cowards or whatever, I guess, and they were going to, go to an icy, watery grave like, Jack, from Titanic, drops down to the bottom of the ocean. It looks like there's a little bit of room on that plank there, Rose. Can I get up on top? No, that wasn't a consideration back then, because it was sort of it was certainly a social expectation, I think. And then I wrote this one essay about, and maybe you guys remember this or not, you can go Google it, but it happened back in 2013 or 2014, I believe. And it was the Costa Concordia. And it was a cruise liner that ran aground and listed over, and it was slowly sinking. And I think they managed to salvage the ship, but like everybody was abandoning the ship. And the difference between that abandoned ship versus the Titanic abandoned ship was night and day, because if guys have the time to think about it and they go, well, the ship is slowly sinking, it looks like the women will get to the lifeboats. Screw it, I'm out. I'm not going down with this ship. Or, not trying to be this serviceable guy to protect m'lady. We see the difference, let's just say, between what was going on in the Titanic era versus Costa Concordia era. And I think that when men have a moment to sort of parse out, like, okay, if I do this, if I go and put myself in harm's way, I could get killed, or I could be killed for somebody that I don't know, as opposed to bang, 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 bang. And then oh my God, you want to get in front of you, protect the ladies. Sperm is cheap. Eggs are expensive. Protect the ladies. And that's an instinctual, on gut level, species DNA written instinct. Remember when we talk about instinct, emotion, and reason? I'm going to talk about the triune mind today too. But the instinctual side is like, there's immediate danger. You do what you have to do right then and there without really thinking. Emotion pushed aside and reason pushed aside. You act on instinct. But given the time to think about the risks involved or the consequences that could possibly happen if I go and I take action, men and women might have some sort of reservations, let's just say, about putting themselves in harm's way for somebody that they don't know. However, you don't see women putting themselves in front of live ammunition to protect men instinctually. Now, I brought that topic up on several podcasts before. So women will come and say, well, here's an incident where women actually put themselves in front of men. I go, yeah, but by and large, the vast majority of those situations is a man putting himself like instinctually, automatically in front of live fire and a woman. Now, you can give me those occasional outliers, and I'm not saying that they don't exist, but I'm saying if you said, okay, here's what's happening, how would you gender role those? Generally, it's men, because we have this instinctive protector, innate protector dynamic for women and for children as well. And that's an important distinction there too, because men will sacrifice themselves for children. Men will sacrifice themselves for women. In fact, really, if you've read my fourth book, I talk about that as well, is sacrifice defines the male experience in a lot of cases. And that's sort of something that I think we're kind of dealing with, now in the 21st century, because we have more access to more information. I once saw I think it was closed circuit security camera video footage that was making the rounds on like Twitter or something. And it was kind of like that infrared, it was a black and white kind of shot of like a nightclub. And this guy and this girl, I've used this example before, but just bear with me here. It's like, there's one guy who's kind of sitting there in the foyer, who's in the front of the club. And there's this couple, and then one guy is like really aggressively talking to his girlfriend or whatever. And it looks like she's trying to push him off. And it just looks like this dude's about ready to clock his girlfriend or whatever. The guy who's sitting down gets in front and tries to interpose himself between the woman and the guy, saying, hey man, back up. You don't want to do anything you regret, blah, blah, blah. Boyfriend shoots the guy, shoots the white knight that comes up dead. And I read the rest of the story, found out the guy had actually died. Probably didn't think the dude was packing, probably didn't think anything was going to happen, thought he was going to be, not necessarily thought he was going to be a hero, but instinctively wanted to get into a situation that was going to protect the lady. Now, had it been two guys, had it been one guy and another guy right there, how willing or how quickly I mean, I'm not saying that guys don't. I've done this myself. Like I've come between two guys who are about ready to brawl, at my own personal risk, and go, hey, chill out, whatever, you stop a fight kind of thing. That's different though. The instinct to go and protect the woman. Now, guys will say, well, that's white knight. You just learned that. No. That's instinct. That's like hindbrain, lizard brain, limbic stuff to get up and, I got to do something. And that's why it is so annoying when we see guys who are there who could interpose and they don't do anything. They don't try to call the police. They don't try to put themselves in there. They don't try to risk bodily harm especially to save a woman. Now, most guys, what they will do is, and women know this because it's part of the let's you and him fight dynamic, but most women know this, is that they can be cocky. They can get in your face. I've seen video after video of women who'll get in the face of a bouncer at a club and knowing that this dude is like, 6'4", and they know, even drunk, they know that if he lays a finger on him, then there'll be 10 other guys that'll jump on top of him immediately. That's the presumption. It's this false sense of security because as often as not, it doesn't happen, especially nowadays. But the presumption, even on the part of women, is that I am a woman, I am vulnerable, and every man within earshot of me will come to my aid if you throw a punch at me. They've done studies on this. I have to, what was was on ABC way long ago, and they did these experiments where they had they had a couple, male, female, at a park bench, and they filmed them with secret cameras and everything, and they had a man who was very aggressive with the girlfriend. That guy got almost immediately, the police were called, or a guy or a woman would come over and try to break up the fight almost immediately. They switched the roles. So now it's the woman who's grabbing the guy and going, I can't believe you. And like, looks like she's really aggressive and she's going to like sock him or something. Took literally hours for anyone to want to put any, I should do a full video on that. I have the video still. I included it in one of my essays. The essay is called What Lies Beneath, I think is what I call it. But anyways, it was the comparison between like the gender differences in potential for violence and who would go and protect the woman over the man. And in some cases, like it looks like the woman could actually like physically harm this guy, but nobody calls the cops. And in fact, they polled the people who happened to be walking by in the park where they filmed all of this. And they polled them and they said, why didn't you just walk by? Why didn't you intervene? And all the women said this: it looked like he deserved it. It looked like it. And one girl is going by, she's going, yeah, like that. Yeah, sister, like give it to him kind of thing. Like he deserves it. Like the potential for violence is right there. But nobody instinctively wants to have that. There's no instinctive protector dynamic for men. Where for women, it's the vulnerability, being the vulnerable sex. That's the whole thing that triggers that. I'm going to read you something from my fourth book here in just a second. I'm going to tell you why this is. So one of the reasons why the idea of treating women as if they are children, and I don't mean like, oh, you're such a good girl. No, we do it instinctively. Men will instinctively treat women as if they're children. They will, in fact, we have to sort of train ourselves and condition ourselves to approach most women as if they're co-equal, co-rational, blank slate equals of men. We have to condition. It takes a lifetime of conditioning men to have that assumption. Now, here's the thing. I've seen these situations. I've seen these videos where I think one woman was attacked by a deer or something like that, or she was attacked by some animal. And the guys are just kind of looking, watching what happens. Or some girl on a subway gets assaulted, and there's all kinds of guys who could have just stepped in and tried to protect her, and they're like, not getting in, not going to do it. And so there's a price to be paid by having men to instinctively kind of unlearn that instinct or that proclivity to put themselves in harm's way for the benefit of a woman. Because if we're all equal, if we're all supposed to be equal lefts and equal rights, right? It's well, a woman can take care of herself. oh, it doesn't matter. G.I. Jane, she's the warrior princess. Women should be able to take care of themselves, except for when they can't. And we instinctively put ourselves in between because we have that protector dynamic for women and children, of course. But we instinctively treat women as if they are children because they are more vulnerable than us. And because there's no expectation for our own protection as men, but there is an instinctive, not just a social, but an instinctive proclivity to want to protect women. So therefore, that changes the dynamic, the personal dynamic, at least on an evolutionary level or an instinctive, evolved innate level between men and women. That's why when PUAs saw this and they understood the Bratty Sister idea, or what I called the Amused, myself and Royce, I'm not going to take full credit for that. Myself and Royce, when we're talking about Amused mastery, I'll talk a little bit about that today. I got a little bit of things to read to you, but I will I want to read you this one part because this is going to be important. Let me catch up with these really quickly. Here we go. Super chats. Thanks, Rollo. You'll never know how much your info has helped in past years, especially with an ex who had her mental issues. Oh, sorry to hear that, my friend. Okay, I'm probably way behind on these, but at least I got Sammy today. One man's chorus says, when children are injured, they cry. When women are frightened, they scream. Are they both calling to someone to take responsibility for them? Ooh, that's actually not a bad question. Okay, no, it's not about responsibility. It's about protection. It's about safety. Remember the 3 Ps of the beta buck side of hypergamy: protection, provisioning, and parental investment. And that protection used to be one of the primary reasons why women would select, or actually one of the reasons they would select men who were like more muscular, or they would find that guy more attractive or arousing because of muscularity, because that guy implies that he has a capacity for violence and that he could take care of himself, at least from a visual cue perspective. And that's why women trigger on that look. The V-taper, like we always talk, he's got to have that Greco-Roman kind of, by physiognomy, let's just say. And so it's not about the cry. It's not so much the crying for to take responsibility. It's more for protection. When you hear a baby cry, this is a great one. I got this when this was Psychology 101. When you hear a baby cry, does it not like drive you insane? What is the worst thing that can happen to you on flying from Reno to Miami? To get on Screaming Baby Airlines. That's the word. I don't know about you, but that is like the word. I would rather go to hell than have to be on a plane for 6 or 4, 6, 5 hours, whatever, with a child that won't shut up. Because it's like this species DNA written, need to just, we like guys wanted to shut the kid up. Usually it's because you don't want to give away your position. You don't want wild animals to say, oh, there's a baby here. The wolves are going to come and eat the child. The dingo ate your baby. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that you want to say, okay, we got to go take care of the child. And I think that, and there's probably studies on this. I don't have them, but I'm fairly certain they're available. When we hear certain things like nails on a chalkboard, for example, or a baby crying, or I guess kind of like a siren might be something, but there's certain sounds that would just, if you hear like a loud clap or a gunshot, you're like, because it's loud as hell, first of all, but you know what that means. And it happens so quick that you have to get out of the way kind of thing. It's like flinching. It's part of the instinct. And I think that's instinctual for men and women to want to go and comfort the babies. Oh, what's wrong with the baby? Is there a snake in the cradle? Is there a spider on the baby? So there's this kind of need, I think, to protect the child because, again, that's your investment in the future. Your alleles, right? Your genes are in that baby. I mean, hopefully, are in that baby. And women definitely know that their genes are in that baby. That's why women have the maternal instinct and protector instinct as well. Have you ever seen... Now I'm going to really get myself into trouble. Have you ever seen videos? And I don't. Do I have it? Somebody showed me a TikTok video, and it was in my Instagram. They DM me in my Instagram, and it was this girl. It was the joke, and she's it's always some little mom who's like still kind of looks like she could get laid if she wanted to, but she's got a kid, and the kid's there kind of trying to dance too, and she's kind of pushing the kid away out of the video. And then the caption is like, when moms dance for Matthew McConaughey, right? Or Jason Momoa, who would name the hot guy that women want to have sex with automatically. And then she's just trying to push the kid out of the picture, because on an instinctual level, women know that if there's a baby sitting right there, if there's a kid there, that's their bad investment for paternity. Women understand that men, on a gut level, women understand that men are generally not into women who have children already. And it has benefited mankind for a very long time. Women know that, to the point where we make TikTok videos that are jokes where we push things. Now, in the extreme case, we get to what's called kill to party, which is women will kill their children, literally infanticide, so that they can get with a better suitor. You want to know what? Again, abortion is the ultimate expression of hypergamy. Abortion is a fail-safe for bad reproductive choices. Casey Anthony, she just had if you don't know who Casey Anthony is, you should be familiar with her. But if you don't, go Google Casey Anthony. That's the textbook definition of kill to party. I want out. I don't want to be a mom. I want to go find another. And you know what? Somebody else, when did this happen? I think it was like 2017, 2018. Somebody married her. She remarried too, which should show you the sad state of men today. But it's that instinctual need to protect the child and protect the mother as well. I think, let's see where we go. Okay, that was you. Walt Mosher, you're all over the place today, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Rollo, how about legit virgin brides based on religious beliefs? Is that sex negotiated? Not as good as genuine desire. You can still have your virgin bride. Now, this is, remember, and I don't care, like, you could pick your girl in the Amish Dutch country in Pennsylvania or whatever. The good girl, the girl who's been sequestered her entire life. She is a perfect virgin, right? She's still subject to hypergamy. She still wants the best. She still wants to have the hottest guy she can get. She still wants to have because that is in our genetic best interests. So that's number one. Number two is there going to be genuine desire because she's putting you off because she wants to keep her legs closed and she doesn't have sex with guys until she puts a ring on it. Walt, I'm going to refer you to the show that I did about Lolo Jones, which was back in, I think, May. That's what I did. Now, if you go and you look at Lolo Jones, she is an interesting case because, and now everybody wants to say, no, she's got to have had sex by now because she's like pushing 40. I think she's like 38 years old right now. Still maintaining the idea that she is a virgin. Same thing. Remember Tim Tebow? Same thing. Well, we applaud their perseverance and just trying to find the guy that God has preordained for them. But you're 38 years old. Odds are you're probably not going to have the child that you wanted to have when you were 28 or even 23 or whatever. It's not working out for you. And for the vast majority of people, they have premarital sex. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that. This is not a judgment show. This is not we don't talk about morals and ethics and all that good stuff. I just present things to you. And the facts are is that the vast like 97.8% of the population are probably going to have premarital sex. That's why I keep saying, like proscriptions against premarital sex. I understand why they exist. I told Lauren Southern exactly these words. I understand why they exist. I also understand why prearranged marriages exist. I know the latent function. You could convince me a lot about this is why we ought to institute this as a best practice. And we have for a long time. I get it. I understand the mechanics behind it now. I'm just saying it's untenable. Certainly in a global society where everything is, the hookup culture, which we're going to talk about again, courtesy of another Lauren Chen today. Who, by the way, I feel like I kind of did Lauren dirty in the thumbnail today, because I agree with probably 90%. She's kind of frustrating to me because she's a TradCon for sure, but she's right, but for the wrong reasons. And we'll end up getting to that today. Let's see. Giorgio Mendez, I saw yours. Thank you. David. Rollo is a kingmaker. Goddamn right. His future son-in-law is a lucky guy. Yeah, we'll see about that. Sam Myers. Hey, Rollo, you have mentioned the red pill is strictly a praxeology. It should be. I'm not saying that everybody sticks to that, but yeah, it should be. However, I noticed when buying your first book on Kindle that the description labels it as an ideology. I found that interesting. Well, there you have it. Maybe I need to change that. I'm trying to remember if I actually wrote that. I think I might have pulled. Where did I pull that from? Anyways, okay. Here we go. AQ. We'll catch the replay at the gym tomorrow. Thanks for calling out the trad thoughts. Oh yeah, they're insufferable, preying on simps who want to desperately to believe far more dangerous than the purple hair types. Yeah. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, because they seem like they should be more believable. Well, Lauren Chen. Let me add her to the street just quickly.
State of modern dating and how things have gotten just harder.
Are you going to take advice from? Who would you rather take advice from? Her or purple hair Lena Dunham? Probably Lauren Chen. Well, must be what girls are really into now. Thank God. Let's see.
Where the Cheetos?
There you go. Sorry. Philip. Love quoting you and seeing your quotes appear everywhere. Tuition for the knowledge. Thank you very much. Yeah, I am the research and development department for the Manosphere and the Red Pill. Don DeMarco. Get the likes up. This content's gold by the books. Thank you very, very much. I should leave that up there for a little longer. Did you guys catch Rule 0 yesterday? I thought it was pretty good. What else is here? Red, Blue War. Thank you for that. There's your quick plug. Dave Laro. Ever see the National Geographic Alpha documentary on YouTube? Faked ape escaped its cage at the zoo and they filmed the group to find the alpha. Oh, no, I haven't. I would like to see that though. Dave, if you can, email that link to me because I would like to see that. Timmy. Thank you, Timmy. Sam Whiskey is acting childlike during mortal danger and evolutionary defense mechanism. You mean for women? I would say it's probably the exact opposite what you would think for men. Acting childlike, yeah, probably. Maybe that's what you were digging at. Yeah, I would definitely offer this is that I think that if what do they say, the most ardent feminist, if the floodwaters start rising, then suddenly she's all about traditional masculinity and save me, she turns into Princess Peach, as soon as her life is in danger. I think a lot of guys make a lot out of that, particularly doom pill, black pill, MGTOW, extreme MGTOWs. Make a big deal out of that. Because as soon there's a school of thought, and I tend to agree with probably 85% of this school of thought is that women can only be feminists in wealthy countries. They can only be feminists when they can afford to be feminists. I only 2/3. 2/3 of the way agree with that because you can go and look at countries like India and they are, is India a first world country? Maybe it is. But definitely not definitely not a sort of Western country, industrialized nation. What would be called weird? What is it? White, educated, industrialized. What was the R for? And then democratic. I forget what R is for in weird, but that definitely not in that situation. But I would say that feminism and gynocentric, like a lot of people want to say that, well, feminism can only exist when there's money involved or there's a industrialized, base for it to flourish. And that is true. When the shit hits the fan, then yeah, feminism is probably going to be gone. But I also see gynocentrism, which is different from feminism. Feminism is the religious sort of active arm of gynocentrism, which you don't have to be a feminist to live in a gynocentric society. Okay. However, I understand what you're saying. Let's move on, Vinny. What that is why evangelical Christians marry at 20 in Brazil? Do they? If you read my book, I'm going to talk about this a little bit here when I get into Lauren Chen's stuff. Boyan, are the only effective strategies in a relationship to spin plates? Stop trying to initiate and eventually break up if things don't change. If your girlfriend doesn't blow you. Good question. We're going to get to that. I promise you we will get to that. If men and women are better together, but we're supposed to treat them like children, why should we want or need outside reproductive intentions? Ha! Here we go, my friend. Here we go. Thank you for asking that question, because that is exactly what I answer in book 4. Okay, here we go. This is an excerpt from the chapter called Crisis Masculinity in The Rational Male Religion, now available on Audible. And I'm just going to start here because with one real quick paragraph. The call, I'm just going to read it to you. The call for New Order feminists today is men must be actively disadvantaged for equality to be achieved. I pulled that line, by the way, from like a placard I saw during one of the great women's marches from back in 2017 or 2018. Feminism has never been about equality, but it was not enough to simply strive for an idealistic egalitarian state between the sexes. Men had to be disadvantaged. And in all of this, New Order women have developed a sense of hubris and independence from men, not necessarily self-sufficiency. That is very important. Let's read that again. A sense of hubris in independence from men, not necessarily self-sufficiency. As a result, masculinized women are encouraged to parrot an old order adage. We don't need men, but we want men. So now it's not so much a need. It's just, it'd be nice to have one. We could keep one around as a pet. All right. This is the chapter, Big Head Babies. And why would they need men at all? Most women fancy themselves as alpha females by order of degree, but they never really understand that the strong, independent woman brand they identify with is based on a masculine dynamic. Essentially, they're alpha males with breasts and a vagina. It's hard for women to give up that fantasy, especially when they live in an era when men are portrayed as vile, stupid, untrustworthy, and dependent on women's unique feminine powerfulness to save them from themselves. That's the Homer Simpson guy, right? That's the Dr. Huxtable. He's just idiot dad that needs mom to solve his problems for him. Okay. This old order narrative instills a sense of empowerment in women based on false narratives. They're taught to resist an easily hated straw man of masculinity, and one made all the easier to knock down in our globalized 24-hour online consciousness. Hypergamy is dualistic, alpha seed, beta need, cads versus dads. Keep that in mind. But half of that desire, the desire for protection, provisioning, and parental investment, emotional investment, familiarity, and comfort from men is rooted in a need for security. This is why you treat them like children. This is why you instinctively treat them like children. While women hate to be called the weaker sex, biologically, evolutionarily, nature or God has made women the more vulnerable sex. The realities of our ancestral past dictated that women and their offspring were dependent on men for protection from a chaotic and dangerous world. That need for security is something women still innately seek in men today. Lauren Chen does a very long, well, not very long, she does a 14-minute video about exactly this. Now, why would that be? Well, here you go, guys. Because human babies have huge heads. Eggs are expensive and sperm is cheap. If you have even a marginal interest in intersexual dynamics, no doubt you've read this somewhere before. Even if you haven't, you're a new religious reader, you probably have some learned or instinctual grasp of men's duty for sacrifice. Particularly TradCons want men to be men and long for the golden era of traditional gender roles. But how do we get those roles? Well, a lot of guys in the new order question men's obligation for self-sacrifice. Can altruism sound like that? In a social context, evolution has designated men as the disposable sex, especially if that disposability leads to promulgating the human species. Nature, it seems, takes far more risks with males of virtually every species in myriad ways. But why are eggs expensive and sperm is cheap? Beyond the obvious answer of one egg cell versus millions of sperm cells, the answer is simple. Human babies have giant heads. It goes something like this, and this is the bullet point list here. Human beings survive by being smart. To make a smart brain, you need lots of neurons. To make lots of neurons, you need to start early in the gestation period, which means human babies have giant heads. But you need to get those babies out of their mothers. So the mothers need inefficiently wide hips, sophisticated brain incubators, and a whole bunch of other expensive reproductive system modifications. Thus, human females are vulnerable and physically helpless compared to the majority of males, of human males. You also have to deliver those babies early while their head is still small enough to fit through those widened hips. As such, every human baby is essentially born premature and requires comparatively long time to reach self-sufficiency. For comparison, infant horses can run just a few hours after being born. In our ancestral past, a human female was vulnerable, inefficient, weaker physical specimen who, for much of her life, is carrying around one or more weak and delicate offspring. Neither can run, fight, or hunt. That's mother and child. Unlike females of other species, human females were constantly dependent on the males to protect, feed, and care for them. They were also dependent on the collective of the women in the gatherers, right? The sisterhood. Thus, the provisioning, security, need side of hypergamy became a very important priority. As a result, human females also acquired by proximity some of the fragility and importance of humanity's very expensive and very fragile children. So now a problem arises in this reality. How do you prevent the males from tyrannizing the females to the detriment of the species? How? By imbuing those males with the same protective instinct towards them that women have towards children. And how do you prevent the females from exploiting that protective instinct to take advantage of the males, or from making themselves unprotectable by ignoring male guidance? By imbuing women with the same instinctive obedience towards men that children have towards women. So, because human babies have giant heads, men instinctively protect and care for women. Women instinctively want to obey and respect worthy men. Worthy men. Women are to men as children are to women. Humans strive for a learned, socially enforced monogamy despite an innate nature that incentivizes a more efficient promiscuity as a mating strategy. Sexism is hardwired into our species by evolution as an inevitable result of our giant heads. Every religion, social philosophy, or sexual strategy is grounded in working with these two instincts, the female instinct to submit and the male instinct to protect. Traditional conservatism, TradCons, is an attempt to maximize the male protective instinct through indoctrination and social learning for the benefit of women. That's an important one. Keep that in mind, because Lauren Chen is going to prove my point here in just a second. Feminism is an attempt to minimize the female submissive instinct, also through social indoctrination, to enable women to more ruthlessly exploit the male protective instinct. And that's where we're going today. The red pill is an attempt to teach men to selectively suppress the male protective instinct to avoid its exploitation by women who are conditioned not to be submissive. So that's the nuts and bolts of it. Oh, there's one last thing here. Even in the old order, TradCons and feminists alike worked tirelessly towards the common goal of female rebellion and emancipation from this evolved order. That's where we're at right now. That is pretty much the definition of gynocentrism. In the new order, men must be freed from the unconscious knee-jerk expression of their protective instincts before they can deal with women in a way that maximizes their benefit rather than that of a stranger. A world dominated by feminism and feminist incentivized traditional conservatism is a world where men prioritize the interests of women and women prioritize the interests of themselves. That locks in perfectly with what Rich says about how we teach our women today to do what's right for you, girl, versus what we teach men, which is do the right thing, be responsible, rather than do your own thing for women. And then last but not least, okay, it's a world half full of adults who must protect children they have no authority over, and half full of unsupervised children, which being the females there. So there you have it. That is the nuts and bolts of why treating women like children, and I don't mean like, oh, little girl. That's not what I mean. I mean, it's the attitude, or it's the deference, I guess, of that man being the adult in the room. And remember how you probably heard this maxim or this saying in the Manosphere before, is that, women tend to be what the most mature teenager in the room kind of thing. There's also, and I forget the studies. I forget the guy's name. I always blank on this guy. But there's studies about how there's different like levels of emotional maturity, and like 6 levels, I believe. And women are like very rarely make it to the 6, whereas men usually go between 1 and 6. For women, they usually bottom out at like 4 or 5, depending on how it's judged. But again, it's that idea that women lead with emotions rather than reason. Now, I'm going to show you a couple things here before I have a bunch of good. I have some visual aids to look at. People ask me this all the time. What's this instinct, emotion, and reason? You have to go to my site. You have to go to the rationalmale.com. I've got 4 or 5 different essays about instinct, emotion, and reason, and summing them all up. I could probably do like half a book just based on what's called the triune mind theory. And it goes something like this. This is it. Triune brain theory. Okay, so the base there. Now, people like when I talked about instinct, emotion, and reason, people thought I was pulling this out of my ass. I'm like, I don't pull stuff out of my ass. I see stuff like this and I connect dots. And here's the dots that I was connecting. Okay, the lizard brain, the brainstem, the cerebellum, that has fight or flight. Your instincts, your instinct to like flinch, your instincts for hunger, your instincts for sex, your instincts for dopamine hits. Okay, that's autopilot, right? That's the autonomous things like breathing, for instance. That kind of stuff. That's your lizard brain. Now, then there's the mammalian brain, right? The limbic system, emotions, memories, and habits, decisions. Okay, this is emotions. This is where emotion lives in your brain, just roughly speaking. Okay, and then at the outset here, we've got the human brain, which is sort of the gray matter area. This is the neocortex: language, abstract thought, imagination, consciousness, reasons, and rationalizes. That's where this comes from. I'm not making this up. Really, I do. Unlike my critics, I do my homework. So if you have a problem with that, or if you want to talk about that, please at least look at that graph before you come at me with something. Now, let me put that back up. Men tend to lead with reason. But the problem with this is that reason takes longer to develop. Learning. Remember when I talked about the machine, the firmware, and the software? So what you're looking at right there is the lizard brain. And this is me connecting dots. Okay, I'm spitballing here, but the instinctual side, the lizard brain right there, is responsible for the machinery. Self-preservation. I got to eat. I got to bang. I got to reproduce. Right. I got to drink water. I got to take a dump, right? Or whatever it is. That's the autopilot right there. Those are instincts. And that's honestly, I think probably people think of that as like being like lesser developed, like, oh, that's just your animal nature. Well, yeah, but it's just as important as any other part of your brain and any other part of like your consciousness, let's just say. And then there's the emotional side right there in the mammalian brain. And that's what I talk about, is that, women tend to lead with emotion. And we have fMRI studies that confirm this stuff. But emotion is much faster than reason, because we feel it and we go, oh, act on emotion. Like we hear really since, I think you could make a case for going back much earlier, but certainly since the sexual revolution, we've heard this constant like Disney, Pixar, romantic comedy script, which is follow your heart and you'll never go wrong. That heart that they're talking about, that emotion, follow your heart. That's that purple part right there. That's the mammalian brain. Follow your mammalian brain and you'll never go wrong. Right? But then there's the reason side, and rationality and reason takes time because you have to program the software. You have to learn. You got to go to college. You got to go to high school. You got to go to kindergarten. You have to learn. You can learn by doing. There's lots of different ways we learn things. But that men tend to lead with reason unless they are conditioned to lead with emotion. It is our proclivity as men to be deductive problem solvers. That deductiveness, that deductivity, I think I'm using that right, that requires reason, rationality, the neocortex. Feeling requires emotion, memories, and habits. Again, none of these are more important than the other. In fact, if anything, I would argue that the lizard brain is probably the most important element of all of this. But like, as far as complexity is concerned, as far as like importance to your existence, they're all incomplete without the others. So this is not me saying, oh, women are just these emotional children and they just can't control themselves. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that women lead with emotion. Women process emotion differently than men do. And men process emotion when they get to it. That's why I said, then again, in a nutshell, I'm not going to go, this is not review. This is not remedial time at the Rational Male here. Instinct, emotion, reason. That's how women start, right? Instinct is always number one, by the way. So like if something's coming at you, it's an immediate thing, your machinery and really your firmware clicks over and you're like, okay, if I were to, I use this illustration all the time. If I were to throw a rock at you, you'd probably duck out of the way, or you have to sort of train yourself. That's your instinct to do that. You can train yourself so that you don't have that instinct. You can train yourself so that you'll put your face in front of a fist in martial arts when every bone in your body says run as far away as you possibly can. Fight or flight is instinct. Adrenaline, instinct. All that good stuff. Yeah. Now, what you feel, fear, anger, anything that is a result of that adrenaline. Well, now we're at the next step in the process. Emotion. Like men tend to opt for anger because that usually solves a problem, Okay, problem solved. When guys default to that emotional side. That's why I always say, like, for instance, when you're training in martial arts, and I don't know, I'm not saying one's better than the other. Don't ask me which one I practice. I'll tell you later. But when you're taught martial arts, you're also taught self-control. At least you're supposed to. And learning that is part of the neocortex. Learning that is okay. Maybe that's not good. Here's a better example. I've used this before. It's when you are taking driver's ed. And they teach you, like, if you ever find yourself in a skid, instead of slamming on the brakes, which makes the skid worse because you go into a spin, what do they tell you to do? Tokyo drift, right? You turn into the skid and you're like, hey, and you kind of get sideways kind of thing. Yeah, because if you turn into the skid and you get your foot off the accelerator, you will skid still, but you won't go woo off into the, over the side of the cliff. Every bone in your body says, stop the car. And the only thing you think to do is put your foot down on the brake. You have to train yourself not to do that. Otherwise you die. There's a lot of we train ourselves to ignore our instincts all the time because our reason overrides our instinct. Now, if that's the case, is it not possible then that we can override our emotions, or our emotions can override other aspects of our brain. Oh, well, if I'm supposed to follow my heart and everything will go right, then it doesn't matter what I think. Screw reason, screw rationality, screw my instincts and what my gut is telling me. I'm just going to go with my feelings. Yeah, if you're trained to prioritize that, sure. Whenever I bring this up and I talk about like triune mind, and even in a sideways way of doing it, women will say this all the time. Men are very emotional. What are you talking about? I can't believe you'd say that. They are emotional all the time. Yeah. For the last 4 generations, I'm sure they do. Especially effeminate men, very effeminate men. Yes. You know how they got that way? You know their dads got that way? Because they were conditioned to prioritize emotion over reason, to tamp down their want for concrete mathematical answers. I said this before. I'll just leave it at this. 2 + 2 = 5. That's emotion. My reality, my truth. That's your emotion. 2 + 2 = 4. That's your neocortex, man. That's the rational side of things. And men have a better facility with rationality than anything else. And how do I know that? Well, let's go look here. Look. Thank you, Rolf. Once again, sex differences in emotionality with women scoring substantially higher or larger in wealthy and gender egalitarian countries. What was I just talking about? Replicating are a well-known pattern. In fact, they would go so far as to call it robust. This is from Wiley Online Library. Once again, this is a research paper. I will promise you to put it into the description so you guys can read that for yourself. That very dry PDF that you probably will have to pay to read anything more than the abstract or the conclusion. But it does exist. There's lots and lots. That was one study I just happened to come across because I knew I was going to talk about that today. There you have it. There's other. I can show you. In fact, I think I included it in the sources cited for book 4. But men and women's brains are different. We're wired different. Hell, we're different down to the cellular level in some respects. So yes, we tend to have a natural proclivity to lead with reason, but it takes longer. Emotion's quick. Emotion's very fast. Any woman, any guy, any woman who will tell you that, oh, men are very emotional. Yeah, I'm sure they are. And they tend to opt for, I'm going to express myself emotionally. Yeah, because I'm angry, right? That's how I'm going to express myself emotionally. And go see Lamb of God and slam into. How did the mosh pit come into being, evolve? Well, guys expressing their emotions. There you go. All right. So now that is said, why do we say that women are children? Now, I'm not suggesting, and I never have, and I never will suggest that you talk down to women and you treat them as if you talk to them in monosyllables. Okay, wifey, are you going to go and have sex with me now? Okay, wifey, are you going to make mac and cheese? That's not what I'm suggesting. And a lot of guys when women hear that and they hear that, well, they said we should just treat you like children. That's not. But the presumption exists, or the condition exists. It's not men, directly treating you as children. Most men don't want to because they believe that women are just the same co-equal, co-rational beings that they are. Because we've been taught from day one that we're all blank slates, and the only thing that's different is the plumbing. Nothing else makes any difference. We're all born equal. We all should have equal choices, and that's why feminism exists, because it's not about women, it's about everybody. We all need to have even Steven. One for you, one for you, one for you. Doesn't change the machine, dear. Doesn't change the red part of the brain right there. That doesn't change. Actually, none of this changes, but that doesn't change anything. The machine stays the same. You can pretend and say, oh, social conditioning, and I identify with 68 different genders. That's, what that part is? That's that purple part right there. That's the purple part talking. Because if it was and maybe the purple part's talking, but the blue part, like your neocortex, is coming up with rationales to support the nonsense that your emotionality is spewing. Because that emotionality and that instinct know your real conditions. Everybody, by the way, this is a primary rule, I think, anyways, of psychology is everybody is intimately aware of what their conditions are. whether we admit to them and whether we accept them and whether we deal with them, that's really the choice. But on some level of consciousness, you know what you're about. You know what your conditions are. I just don't understand myself. Now, unless you are like schizophrenic, right? Unless you have multiple personalities, unless you have some like really serious like chemical disorder, you're pretty aware of what your conditions are. Unless you're on LSD or ayahuasca, you probably understand what your conditions are. All right, so there you have it. We are at the hour and 20 mark. Let me back up a little bit. Yeah. Anybody say anything? Oh, I got a few more. Hang on. Sam Whiskey got to you. Boyan, I think I got to you. Yeah, I did. Viking Dad. Viking Dad. Low there, do I see Viking Dad? Hypergamy is not a straitjacket is being ignored online right now. Of course it is. Talking about Leonardo DiCaprio's belly versus his supermodel girlfriend. Yeah, it's not. Okay, so just in a nutshell, Viking Dad, because you have a cool name, I'll explain this to you. So why do I say that hypergamy is not a straitjacket? Because everybody who wants to believe, and again, getting into another very easy misnomer. Oh man, we can get him on this, right? Yeah, he those MGTOW guys, they think like, I'm not MGTOW, but like they think that if you get with a girl, she's gonna leave you for the next best Chad. Yeah, well, not every woman can do that. And over time, what would attract Chad decays. It's your job to make sure that you are always in a higher sexual market value than she is, if that's what you decide to do. Perhaps you just want to spin plates. Perhaps you want to just date non-exclusively until you decide to transition over to whatever it is you choose to do as an LTR. However, that ends up playing out in the future. That's why hypergamy is like the problem that, like when you look at hypergamy, you look at alpha seed and beta need, alpha fucks, beta bucks. Okay. When you look at from the TradCon perspective and that white pill perspective, it's only one side. It's only the beta buck side. Lauren Chen, Lauren Southern, these douche nozzles from the white pill. I don't even know their names. It's always the same. It's the same crap. And by the way, I'm not going to listen to your like 4 or 5 hour, cut up piece. And I don't think anybody else is either for that matter. But that's what they focus on. They focus on the beta buck side. Jordan Peterson focuses on the beta buck side. Like it doesn't even exist. The alpha fucks doesn't even exist. Or if it exists, because guys hit me on this, they go, no, he says this. He knows about the Tinder, and it's only 4% for men and 98% for women, whatever it is. Swipe left, swipe right. Men on Tinder in the quote unquote hookup culture. We've had that episode already. It's focusing on the idea that the only thing that should matter is the beta buck side of things. And so when guys say, well, he actually does talk about that stuff. Okay, yeah, he does, but he does so from the perspective that anybody who is focusing on the alpha fuck side of hypergamy, there's something wrong with them. That's only for predatory, dark triad people. If you are a good, upstanding, pro-social member of society and you are well-adjusted human female or male, that wouldn't even be a consideration for you. It's only about, babies in the future. Bullshit. Dr. Peterson, bullshit, anybody else throwing that at me. That's why you fail. That is a dead meme. It's time to start accepting the nature of men and women, and that's definitely part of it. And if you can't accept that unflattering aspect, then move over, because the truck's coming through. We definitely need to be the guys that are putting this stuff out there and confronting people about this. If you call yourself red pill and somebody only focuses on one side of hypergamy, understand why they're doing that. Now, it's just as unhealthy for you to go, well, it's all about alpha fucks and looks and this and this and all they want to do is fuck Chad, and the guy's got to be 6 foot tall and have 6-pack abs and a V taper and drives a McLaren. Well, the McLaren maybe not, but it's all the physics, it's all the alpha fuck side, right? You're only focusing on that one side. You don't look at how important the beta buck side of the female mating strategy is, and the variables that go into, a woman's selectivity based on either side of it. So if all you're doing is focusing on alpha fucks, to the exception of beta bucks, or vice versa, you are making a grave error. That's why I say hypergamy is not a straitjacket. Just because a woman is hypergamous does not mean you're doomed. Does not mean that your kids are never going to be yours. Well, yeah, maybe not on a legal sense, but let's just say, there are plenty of people all over the world who have had kids with their significant other, wife or girlfriend, whatever, and they're still together. They've still made it work. Why is it that they're able to make it work and you won't even try? Why is that? The juice not worth the squeeze. Okay, well, let's look at all the different ways we can make it not worth the squeeze, and then try to figure out why is it that other people have been able to do it. There's plenty of guys. I've never been divorced. That's not a flex. I mean, I know Rich has been divorced. I know other guys in the sphere have been divorced, and it's hell. I get it. You want to know why I don't cover those topics? Because I don't be talking out of my ass. I can show you the stats, but that's about it. I can't speak from experience. I leave that to the guys who know what they're talking about. Unlike other people, unlike critics of the rational male, I shut my mouth when there's something that I don't know about. Or else I'll go look up stats and just sort of like, here it is. Connect these dots. There you go. Giga Chad's in the chat. Giga Chad. That's peak 2020, 2019. When did Giga Chad come out? Just saying hi, Rollo. Thank you. Oh, right back at you, man. Let's give you, what do you get?
Hello there, children. How's it going?
There you go. Have you done Devil Mountain Coffee yet? You want me to do it again? I did actually in the beginning. This is my jacked up mug. Sorry. Don't get this. Well, it's a good mug, but like the printing comes off. Yes, I have done Devil Mountain Coffee. Highest caffeine content. That's how I exist. I exist on 3 things: caffeine, protein, and stress. Those are the things that keep me going, man. All right. We're going to get into Lauren Chen here in just a second. I do have a few things. Now, before I'm not, again, standard caveats apply. I actually like Lauren Chen a whole lot better than most of these people. But before I dig into this, I have to point out a few things that I'm seeing going on in the Tradosphere, right? TradCon sphere. And by that, I mean like the usual suspects. Okay. Prager University, certainly Jordan Peterson, because he's been really harping on this stuff a lot. Brett Weinstein and Amy Hayer, his wife. Who else? Oh, Daily Wire. Daily Wire, actually, of all places, Daily Wire actually hosted a blog post by Brett Weinstein and Amy Hayer. They are making the rounds. I thought it was this is not a fluke. This is not an anomaly. There's really this push. And I would guarantee you that probably sometime in the next week, if not already, you'll probably see Candace Owens touching on this kind of stuff again. For whatever reason, the red pill is kind of a hot topic in TradCon spheres right now, but it is a hot topic in the sense that it is in some way trying to promote monogamy and traditional marriage. And I have to actually, let me throw this one up here. This is maybe this kind of sums it up very nicely. This is Suzanne Vanker, whose show I've been on before, by the way. Susan Vanker, feminism serves men very well. They can have sex at hello. And even live with their girlfriends with no responsibilities whatsoever. It's the women who lose. You hear that from Lauren Southern? You're going to hear it here in just a second from Lauren Chen. That's probably the one part that I'm really going to take issue with. But that's been making the rounds, and I'm like, oh, really? So, of course, me being the asshole that I am on Twitter, I'm pointing out these stories that are like, oh, well, what was the one? It was, wait, here it is. I don't have it queued up. Let me throw it up there. There's new stats, by the way. And this is from the World Health Organization, and it's the figures, the burden of injuries by the World Health Organization by country and then by sex. Actually, you know what? Let me put this in. You guys will get a kick out of this. Nope, that's not what I want. Hang on. Share screen. This is the stats I was talking about. Okay, so here it is. By type of injury, male, female, Africa, Americas, middle. You can see there. Okay, so this is great. Per 1,000 adults, 15 years old to 59 years old. Now at the top of there, that orange, that's war. Now, war has been described by a certain Hillary Clinton as women being the primary victims of. Clearly, we can see that this is not true, Mrs. Clinton. We have statistical evidence here. Calls into question your presumption about women being the primary victims of war. Violence. Women are the primary victims of violence. No. That's another thing is you'll hear this occasionally, really from hardline feminists is, women are victims of male violence more often than. It's like, no, men are more often the victims of male on male violence. And when it comes to violence, guys are the ones who are dying. Remember that protector dynamic we were talking about what 40 minutes ago? Here it is, black and white. Okay. So if you want to see this, I think I put this in my Twitter feed. I can't actually put it in the comments, but you get an idea here. Violent. Okay. So self-inflicted injuries. I would presume that's suicide. But in every single one of these, oh my God, male. In no country do females in any way outweigh males' statistics for injuries. Does that sound to you like men have a protector dynamic? I mean, even still, you can say, well, maybe women are just smarter and they stay out of the way. Yeah. But if you look at the incidents there, that's pretty good. Self-infliction, other unintentional injuries, like falling off a ladder, fires, falls, poisoning. Who dies more from poisoning? Well, looks like men again. Road traffic accidents, still men. By every metric, men are more men. What did I say in the book? I just read it. Nature takes more risks with men. Clearly, sperm is cheap and eggs are expensive. I think in black and white that sort of illustrates that point. But as far as Susan Venker is concerned, feminism has served men. I don't think so. Sue. You want to come on this show? I'd be happy to debate it with you. Yes, I will have you on the show and I'll have actually debate it with you because you know what? That's a topic. Boy, what a great topic, right? Well, here's my premise. Feminism serves men very well. Good. That's a topic we can debate. Awesome. Rollo, you're a cult leader. That's not a topic. That's an opinion. And you know what they say about opinions. I thought this was pretty funny too. A state university psychology. Thank you, Rob Henderson, for this information today. A state university psychology professor told me she was seeing many instances in which married working class women who earned a college diploma felt they'd outgrown their blue collar husbands, eventually leading to a marriage breakdown. And this is a Newsday article, but even Newsday is starting to see sort of the fraying at the edges, right? Whoa. Why aren't we having babies? How come women can't get married? We need to talk about it. Women can't find economically attractive men. And when they do, and then they suddenly get a promotion or they get a degree, they don't want those men anymore. They want someone else. Sounds like that's, that comes from the red area of the brain. Most likely the emotional side too. All right. Let's get into Lauren Chen's stuff here. Now, I'm going to let I should probably play this at double speed. I might scrub through this. Okay, just to get to the pertinent areas.
For both men and women, since we've moved away from marriage and monogamy in favor of, I guess, hookup culture. And just a disclaimer, this video is probably going to make a lot of people mad. I can't imagine feminists liking this, nor will MGTOWs or incels. And heck, just people in general seem to get mad when I talk about dating. I remember the...
Okay, I gotta throw this one out there because I gotta throw a bone to my good friend Ryan Stone here. We noticed this trend as well. You will now see, and I've seen this, this is at least the third or fourth incident of this, is you will see traditional conservative women primarily, again, this is a hot topic in TradCon spheres. You'll see them preempting the response that they're going to get. That's what she just did here. Do you guys catch that? It's the same dynamic that they use for movies right now. Like I use this illustration. It's like they produce a film, like a dog of a film, like Captain Marvel or the female version of Ghostbusters or whatever it is, and they know it's going to suck. But that's built into the marketing. So they go, well, if this sucks, it only means that incels just are insecure in their masculinity. It goes and sucks, and guess what? It's already you're tilling the fields. They're already blamed for it. They're already the scapegoat, and it sucks. So therefore, it's your fault that it sucked. Not that we produced a shitty movie. Well, same thing applies here. Well, I know what you guys are going to say, and I know incels are going to be upset about this. So when you're upset, I'll be right. Yeah, that's bad form, Lauren, but that's okay. I'll give you a pass on that one for this time.
The last video I did talking about dating, I forget what specific topic, but this person was like, who would listen to you? You're married, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, as opposed to getting your dating advice from unhappy single people. Yeah, that makes sense. But anyway, the question of who has it harder in dating, men or women, is something that comes up on social media a lot. And it's actually a post talking about this that inspired this video. This post was originally shared to Reddit, and it's titled, I, a 33 female, helped my brother, a 31 male, with dating apps. Now I am depressed. And I'm going to read you some of it, but basically the takeaway here is that this 33-year-old female had no idea how hard men have it when it comes to trying to date using dating apps, I'm guessing like Tinder or Bumble. This person writes, I, a 33 female, decided...
But I thought feminism benefited men, Susan.
...to help my brother, a 31 male, with apps. She says he's been struggling with dating and dating apps for 3 years now, and parents are concerned about his mental health. So I invited him to stay with me for a couple of weeks and told him that I would help him fix his dating app profiles, as I was certain that he was doing something wrong. He half-heartedly agreed and brought a second phone that I could use. He is 6 foot, 165 pounds, and has moderately good looks. He has a stable job, which makes him good money. I set up his account on Tinder and Bumble and completed his profile, description, etc. on his second phone. I also swiped and initially chatted with women who matched with the profile. My aim was to show him how to talk to women to keep them interested in him, because his main complaint was that they never respond. I thought of sending the first few messages and then letting him continue the conversation. It has been 2 weeks now. My experience has been utter garbage. Nobody wants to have a conversation. I don't quite understand why. Maybe I am doing something wrong. And then the woman goes in to describe...
Well, you must be, because Susan Baker said that feminism benefits men mostly.
Describing how different her experience trying to use these apps as a man was compared to her experience using these apps as a woman. Listing some of the things she experienced, she writes that 1, very few matches when compared to what women get. He got a few matches on the first couple of days. Post that, it's just a match or two a day. I used to get scores of good matches every day when I went on dating apps for myself, and I was very picky. So as someone who hasn't been single for like 5 years, which actually reminds me, Liam and I's 5-year anniversary is coming up, very exciting, but I actually used to have a Tinder account, and I know Tinder has a reputation for being a hookup app, and I think there are a lot of people who use it that way, but it's not exclusively just that. There are couples...
Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold the damn phone. You do realize, Lauren, maybe it's been a while since you're 27 and you've been married for 5 years. So it's been since you were 22. No, Tinder is a hookup app. Can we just cut the shit? Can we? Because the Tinder was actually a derivative of Grindr, which was definitely a hookup. Was the homosexual version of that, Tinder was the heterosexual version of the homosexual version of Grindr. So yeah, it's a hookup. It's a hookup app. That hookup culture that I kind of clearly I proved was a cope about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, clarify.
Couples now who are married who originally met on Tinder. But I will say that, yeah, it's true. As a woman, you get so many more matches than you would as a guy. And actually, I've been on male friends' Tinder accounts, and I've seen that they just don't get a lot of matches. In fact, I've literally seen guys swipe right, or like whichever accept is, on every single dating profile just to see what matches he can get. And then once he already has the matches, then he'll filter them because it's different odds as a guy. This woman also explains that on her brother's profile,
different odds. Would you like to know what those odds are? They're 80-20. That's my odds. Actually, it's more like 90-10, but we'll continue.
There were hardly any responses from his matches. Women just don't want to have anything to do with him. This was perhaps what affected me the most. I watched in despair as matches just kept expiring. Sometimes they would stop after a few messages, and other times they wouldn't even send a message or a reply. I have used Bumble and Tinder myself. Men don't do this. 90% of men respond to the first message. This is worse than getting a eggplant pic, which has happened to me a few times. At least the person on the other side wants you, even if it is just for sex. Imagine being ignored like a piece of trash. That's what it felt like. 90% of matches never initiated the conversation or responded to the first message. How is he supposed to get a date when there are no responses from the other side? And this is also a really good point. When it comes to dating apps, women really have all of the control. And I know that because I've been in that position. You get so many more matches as a woman. It doesn't really make sense to try to initiate conversations with guys because, I mean, odds are there's already 20 other guys already in your inbox who are pursuing.
I would say 20 is a very conservative estimate.
You. And I'm not saying that that's right or that's how it should be or that it is good. I'm just saying that is the reality of trying to meet someone on a dating app. She also explained that from her perspective, there were very poor quality matches. Most women who matched with his profile were nowhere close to his educational qualifications or salary range. In fact, there wasn't even a single match who initiated a conversation.
You do know this is Tinder, right?
And that I would say matched his salary and education level. I never had this problem on dating apps. There are loads of men who are either equal or better than me in salary and education. I met my current boyfriend on Bumble and he makes as much as I do. Okay, so in the comments of this post, I did see some people saying that this is clearly a fake post. It's not real, but this right here is how I know that it was a woman writing this because frankly, men would not care to qualify their matches based on income and education. Like that's something that women look for in prospective partners, but men on average, I'm not saying that men don't care at all, but men in general are less preoccupied with how much his girlfriend is making or what her education level is. And where do
sounds to me like eggs are expensive and sperm is cheap, right? I mean, that's remember what I said about like, let me put this out of here, come back up. I remember what I was talking about a couple shows ago, I think, actually probably more than that, how the dynamic, like when women say like, you know, oh, it's so unfair that if a man has sex with a lot of women, it's a double standard, right? He has a lot of sex with them, he's a hero. But if I have sex with a lot of guys, then I'm a slut. That's so unfair. No, it's not. He's a man, you're a woman. His criteria for attraction and arousal is different from yours. His criteria for wanting to start a long-term relationship is also different from yours. When women say, I'm an alpha female, they are claiming that alphahood. Of course, they'll deny that there is such a thing as an alpha male, but boy, they're sure an alpha female every time they want to self-describe, right? However, that metric that they base their alphaness, like as an alpha female, is based on a masculine dynamic. That's exactly what just happened right here. There's a girl like, oh yeah, she puts all these things that they think, oh, this person doesn't make the same amount of money as I do. That's how she knows that it was a female who actually placed the ad. Yeah. That's how you know. Also, how you know alpha females are bullshit. Because the metric for them to be an alpha female is based on how well they perform in a male context, not how hot you are. That's a really good, what she just said here. She doesn't know this, but this is a really good example of that. You got a girl who's like a hot piece of ass, man. She's like swimsuit Renee Summerfield. Go look her up. SOMMER field. That's an alpha female. Because that is an alpha female in a female context. That is a woman who can command the attention and the arousal of the sexual market interests of men because of the way based on the criteria that men have for women. Not Sheryl Sandberg, who makes a lot of money, she's physically, you probably don't have anything to do with her, but like she makes a lot of money. She has a high status job. By any definition, if you're going to talk about alpha females, she's probably the alpha female, right? No, she's an alpha male. As I said before, when I was even reading that clip from Religion a little while ago, there's this idea that the alpha female it should be congruous with the male ideal, and it is not. Same thing here. She's running into this dynamic without really even knowing it. There's a lot of thank you, Lauren. I'm not trying to be a dick here, because I think a lot of the stuff that she talks about here, maybe unwittingly, is really actually pretty red pill. She's red pill, but she doesn't know why she's right. She's like she comes around to it, but she's right, but for the wrong reasons.
We're talking more about how dating culture and hookup culture has really hurt men, but also women. First, though, I want to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Noble Gold. The word tapering has been true.
We're going to move along. Hang on. There we go.
Compared to only 20% of men who they do view as attractive, which, like, if you just think about statistics for 2 seconds, that doesn't really make sense. Around half of people should be in that average looking range. But
catch that? Should, not is. They should be. Yes. If we were all blank slate equals and we all had the same criteria upon which we based our sexual market value for one person versus the other. Okay. So now I'm going to explain something to my good friends in the white pill right now who want to throw rocks at me and talk shit about me when it comes to me explaining the difference between sexual market value and what they think is married market value. That I have never talked about. I don't talk. You go do a search. I think I might have mentioned it in passing or critically mentioned it in passing. But marriage market value was something that came out way back in the 2012. I think it was when I was starting to focus on sexual market value. SMV was a big deal back in like 2012. And especially in religious circles on Dalrock's site and Donald Graham too, I think, on those sort of Christo red pill blogs, that's where that came from. You guys have no fucking clue where that term even came from, because when it was being developed, you guys were in fucking middle school. Okay? You don't have any experience with this married mate value, whatever it is. Okay? It's this idea that there is a separate mate value from sexual market value and married mate value. Okay, great. So let's dissect that just really quickly here, because she kind of mentioned this in passing, and I saw some video. Somebody was asking, what do you think about this part of the Lauren Southern thing? Okay, here we go. I've never talked about marriage mate value or whatever. And the reason why I haven't is because you don't get to any long-term relationships until you have sexual market value. I have said this in the past, very often, in fact, is that particularly women and men with feminized ideals who have been trained to prioritize emotion and women's imperatives before any other consideration think this, that sexual market value should be synonymous with personal value. I've written at least 2 different essays, maybe 3 different. I think one of them's in book 2. Is it's called conflating values. Separating values. That's what it was called. I wrote it about this woman called Robin Korth. Now, Robin Korth, at the time of my writing that, was in her maybe early 60s, late 70s, or late 50s, early 60s. And she was single, feminist, proud of the way she looked, for her age. She was thin, but she's pushing 60 or, early 60s. And she wrote this really long blog post about a guy that she was dating who was younger than her, but I think he was like 55, right? And she was very proud of the fact that she had like attracted this guy who was younger and everything else. And then at one point when they were, the build up to them actually having sex after God knows how many dates and doing still at 64 years old, hypergamy is still in effect because she was making this guy jump through hoops and making rules for the guy. And the guy wasn't having any of it. And there was at one point, the reason why she wrote this blog was because the guy had insisted that she wore lingerie. And he said, hey, why don't you grow your hair out? Because she had kind of like that Karen look, the Karen cut. And she was just mortified. She was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that. It's all about just his, I'm not a piece of meat. And da da da. And I'm just like, you're 64 years old, or however, you're in your 60s, your early 60s, and you haven't figured that out yet. And she hadn't. And the reason why she hadn't is because she conflated sexual market value with her personal value, with who she thought she was, my self-esteem and who I am as a person and a woman and a professional and an educated, person in Western society, right? That's what men should find attractive, is just, it's not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. Bullshit. Put on some lingerie and grow your hair long. If you want me to hold my nose while I bang you, then at least make some token effort to show me that you really want to, please me. I would never do such a, how dare you? What do I have that? I don't have that loaded. How dare you? Right. That's the thing. And that's what I think a lot of women have a real tough time with, is separating their personal value, like who they are as a person. You could be Mother Teresa, and people say, oh, that's a bad example. Okay. You could be a saint. Okay. You could be a genius. You could cure cancer. You could be a humanitarian giant, immortalized in a giant statue somewhere, right? You could be the best human, female, whatever that the world has ever known. That is separate from your sexual market value. That is, it's the same thing. Like when I tell guys, like, you will never virtue a woman into bed. You will never reason a woman into bed. You will never be able to give a woman a detailed Excel spreadsheet of all the reasons why she should bang you, because you never appeal to reason with her. Again, talking like as if you remember, men hate this too. Like they think that if I'm like, if you're not directly saying, hey, are you DTF? Direct game mode 1, whatever the fuck you're calling it now, right? If you're not DTF, then you're a simp. Right? You're trying to talk to her on an emotional level, but guess what? That's the only language most women speak, is emotion. They only know how to play the game. Even when you're saying, hey, are you DTF? You're still kind of appealing to emotion, because if she is, you're like, all right, yeah, because that appealed to the mood she was in at that point. So you're still kind of playing a game, although whether it works out for you or it doesn't, you just move on to the next. So you don't really understand that you're playing the game rather than thinking that you're just observing the game. So after having said that, what happens is guys don't have the patience to know that you don't appeal to reason. You don't make a spreadsheet. You cannot virtue a woman into bed. You cannot reason a woman into bed. You can vibe her into bed. Hotep Jesus is fantastic at vibing women into bed. Ask me how I know. But that's it. They don't even know what to call it. That's why they call it vibing. Well, it's spiritual. If I'm vibing and he's respectful and he's hot, then I'll get into bed with him. They don't know why. You can pick that apart, but you can't expose the game. Even saying, are you DTF? That's still playing the game, because in the back of your head, rationally, using the neocortex, right? Knowing that stuff, you can still relate to women on an emotional level and still be the dude, still be the man, still be the guy who has what I've discussed as amused mastery. I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. I'm going to read a little bit of that as well. But amused mastery comes back to the idea that, teaching guys, teaching PUAs, whatever, that you treat women as if they're children. Do I do that overtly? No. But do I do that covertly? Do I have that attitude? Do I have that sort of subroutine running in my my background process? Yes. You have to, because that woman is looking to you for security. She's looking to you for provisioning. She's looking to you because she wants you to be dominant. And there's a difference, by the way, between like being like dominant or social dominance. And guys, I think I mentioned this in my fifth book, my upcoming fifth book, the difference between social dominance and like overt, like, like women, overt dominance, women would say that's domineering. Now, there's a distinction between those two. However, let's get back to the separation between SMV and MMV, really, which is like, well, what are you worth, right? Are you feminine? Do you love children and puppy dogs and everything else? What you guys are doing is you're applying, again, as we're talking here, you're applying female criteria for men to women, because you still believe in the blank slate. You still have this blank slate notion that that's the way it ought to be. Women should want those things, and therefore I should want them too. TradCons are eating this stuff up like freaking M&Ms right now, because it appeals to the personal responsibility meme that they have been really happy to reinforce over and over and over again. But when we talk, you will never hear me talk about married mate value, because I focus on sexual market value, because you don't get to anything else. You don't get to a long-term relationship unless that's there. In fact, you don't sustain a long-term relationship, whether it's marriage or whatever, unless you understand those fundamentals. That's why I don't talk about that. To me, anyways, sexual market value is mating market value or marriage market value or whatever the fuck you're going to call it. That's what it is. Yes. Is it important? Other parts of it? Yeah, definitely. I don't want some psychotic bitch. I want a good mother for my kids. Yeah, that's important. But you don't get to those until you understand sexual market value. Because you're born and raised and matured and conditioned in a feminine primary social order, you think that is the correct way to think about things. Whatever works for women, whatever works for gynocentrism, whatever works for the female imperative sounds like logic, sounds like the way we should be doing things. Yeah, that doesn't help you understand the nature of men and the nature of women, because when you do, then you can focus on those other things. Because without that, you're dead in the water. Without that, you're hobbling yourself. That's why I don't talk about that stuff. It was stuff that they want to make up. It's like Socrates talking about like hypergamy. It's like, let's make up some bullshit that we can just like say, oh, well, if women date up, then men must want to date down. No, they don't. I mean, they don't have an attraction floor, granted, but that's not a strategy. That's not an imperative. Men want to bang the hottest chick that they can get. And barring that, they want to bang the most available chick they can get. And if that happens to be a fat chick or an older chick or, a cougar or whatever, don't care, got laid. Right, Ryan? That's the whole thing. And if you want to make up some hypergamy or married mate value, okay, if it makes you feel better, but that what you're describing is the difference between women accepting the fact that their personal worth is not their sexual market value worth. Once again, from the top, women's primary agency in this world is their sexuality. They know this. They know this from a very early age. You don't know this, or if you persist in this idea that, women will be better if men will be better. And here's how we're going to do that: by being more like women, by aligning ourselves with women's sexual strategy. No, you understand yourself and you put your mating strategy first. You make yourself your mental point of origin, because that's what women want. That's the guy who can protect them. That's the guy who can protect the children. That's the guy who has social dominance, physical dominance, financial dominance, whatever it is. That's the guy that they can look up to. And as long as you persist in conflating sexual market value with personal worth, you're as good as a woman. You might as well be a chick dating another chick based on the same criteria. That's what it boils down to, more or less. Ian, thank you very much. Yes. Redneck is my favorite. There's a lot of good ones, but I mean, come on. Oh my God. All right, let's keep going.
That's not how women view male partners. Same is not true for men. However, if you look at the bell curve of how men rate women's attractiveness, it does look a lot more just, like a regular spread. Studies also show that women are more likely to be having sex nowadays than men, which means that sexual intimacy is being concentrated amongst a smaller number of males. And all of that is pretty bad news for, honestly, the majority of guys out there. And even though—
Wow. We've come full circle. Lauren Chen is finally red-pilled.
So it's always been true that women are more likely to reproduce than men. You have more female ancestors than male ancestors, for example. I think this.
And you know what's funny is we based our assumptions on compatibility and concealed hypergamy prior to open hypergamy, concealed hypergamy, and women's sexual strategies that were based on provisioning, protection, and parental investment being the primary sexual strategy. That's what she just described here is why we now know that women have. Well, we now know, we've actually always known this, but we it's more obvious, it's unignorable. Alpha fucks beta bucks. And so for the longest time, when we had, if there's an opposite to open hypergamy, it was concealed hypergamy. And it was in women's best interests to keep their mating strategy secret. That's why, what was it? Concealed estrus, right? There's a parallel right there that when you don't actually know when a woman is ovulating, you're supposed to. Actually, you do know instinctively. You know, red brain, the instinct side, that the autopilot, that your autopilot knows, but your emotion and your rationalizations from the purple and blue areas, those kind of like, so, well, she, just because she's got those hoop earrings on doesn't mean anything. She just likes those. That red dress, that doesn't mean anything. Sure, honey, you can go off to girls' night out in Vegas for the weekend, no problem. And so you'll rationalize that. Your gut screams, no, behavior is wrong. Everything's your peripheral awareness. No. And your emotions and your reasons. Oh, that's okay. Sounds good to me. Oh, I don't have any reason to trust her. I don't want to be an insecure male. Yeah, that's your learning. Oh man. But what she's talking about here is prior to, when did I write that? I think it was 2013, 2012 when I wrote the initial open hypergamy essay, which is in book 2, which is in preventive medicine. And I was noticing the trend in commercials about women's sexual strategy just coming out in the open. In fact, now it's you hear it in every rap song, right? You hear it, you watch it on TV commercials, you see it in wherever. You see it in a popular, what is it? Sex Life on Netflix. That's open hypergamy. I don't know how much simpler I can make it for you. But if there's a parallel to that, prior to open hypergamy, there was concealed hypergamy, and women had to, it was in their best interest to keep it secret, because if they didn't and it got out, then they could lose the investment that the guy has by divorcing her or by, putting her on, whatever, leaving her for, cheating on her, whatever else, because if she's not into him for the idealistic set, like his belief in idealistic love, that's that's the best, weapon in their arsenal. Is that men believe in an idealistic concept of love, while women believe in an opportunistic concept of love. And I remember when I put that out, and that was that's, by the way, that is Iron Rule of Tomassi number 6. And that's another one of those rules that gets misinterpreted over and over and over again. Rollo says that women can't love you. That is not what it says. And I will read it to you later on if you wish. However, it is, I'll just give you the brief side of that is women fundamentally lack the capacity to love men in a way that men believe that women should be able to love them. That's the whole thing. That's the whole rule. Not fundamentally lack the capacity to love. Oh, there it is. The science is settled. Rollo said so. No, that's not what I said. And you need to read that, especially when it comes to things like love, because that is very complex and very intricate, I should say. It's not just an elevator pitch. I've written probably more than anything else, other than maybe hypergamy, but other than that, love and the differing concepts of love, the gendered concepts of love, the gendered concepts of respect, basically gendered concepts where there's a discrepancy between men and women. I've covered those a lot, but man, let me tell you, the love thing is really tough, especially for guys who are invested in the idea that women should be able to love them idealistically, and that's not how they come to love. You have to check off parts of that checklist, man, before they will emotionally invest in you. Guys have a real tough time with that. So anyway.
Problem has been exacerbated due to hookup culture. I mean, think about it. If you're, for example, an average looking guy, or heck, even less than average looking, traditionally, historically, you could have still attracted a mate by being a really good provider, or by just being someone kind who they want to spend time with, if we're, in the past where you're lucky enough to actually marry for love. Nowadays with hookup.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, I preempted that a little bit. That's exactly what I was just saying. Back in the past, when we married for love, no, the machine didn't change. The instincts didn't change. The necessities didn't change. The society and the context in which those were manifested was way different. Yes, absolutely. Prior to the sexual revolution, you're right, sister. There was all kinds of social buffers that would at least compromise the worst of men's sexual strategy and the worst of women's sexual strategy. The reason why we're in the shit that we're in, the shit soup that we're in right now with respect to dating and the marriage market and everything else that you're going to complain about and say it's all men's responsibility. The reason why we're here right now is because we have unfettered women's hypergamy. We have unfettered their sexual strategy. And at the same time, we have put more restrictions on men's. Men, you can't even, like right now, it's illegal for a beta male to come onto you. All that stuff where, oh, you just had to be a sweet guy back in the past. Yeah, maybe. But if you're that sweet guy right now, that woman sees you as a nice guy and she goes, what does he want? He's being nice just because he wants to get in my pants. Oh, he's a creep. And guys, you should be, if that's you, if you're the incels that she's talking about here, which is nonsense, by the way. It's not incels, it's not MGTOW. She's talking about guys in the manosphere, period. Whether you're MGTOW, you identify as one of these things. If you're red pill, that's really who she's talking about here. But she's right. In the past, it was based on provisioning. Primarily, if you were going to get a mate, if you were going to get laid, if you're going to reproduce, if you're going to start a family post-war, right after World War II, why do we have a baby boom? Well, because all those guys in World War II were so hot? No, man. It's because the criteria was different. The alpha fuck side of hypergamy was buffered because what was more important was a guy who had a good job, stable job, was going to get a pension, a good bet for having a father knows best, right? My 3 sons. I love Lucy. I don't know. But that whole dynamic, right? When we say, oh, you just want to go back to the 50s, where those chauvinistic men. What's funny to me, this is my joke, of course, that I always talk about, is like, TradCons don't want the red pill. They want a time machine. And they want to go back to this romantic era in the 1950s that didn't exist. There are also feminists who hate that era, who will shit all over you and say, you're a 1950s caveman male chauvinist pig. So you can't win by getting in that time machine and going back to the 50s. Back to the Future. You don't get to go back to the, Magic Under the Sea dance. Sorry. It never existed, first of all. And second of all, if it did, it existed for the space of like 3 years in the nuclear family with the white picket fence and the golden retriever in the front yard. But she is right. There was different criteria back then. And that's what women, were looking for, because again, it's a different generation, different context. And more importantly, no hormonal birth control. No unfettering of hypergamy. So women knew what they had to do, men knew what they had to do, and we all got it. I'm not saying it was perfect, it wasn't ideal, but the mechanics, the idea that, oh, we married for love back then. No, because you just contradicted that. Well, you're looking for provisioning and a guy with a pension and a guy who's, going to go work at the factory or whatever. He's going to do his best to work for you, baby, and make you happy and make you comfortable. And we'll have some kids and we'll have a really great life. And I'll produce it and you distribute it. We'll have a really great life together. Doesn't that sound good? Yeah. Okay, cool. That was the compromise. But now women don't have to compromise. If anything, you do what's right for you, girl. But men, you do what's right. Men, you have to stay in the 20th century. Women, you get to be in the 21st century. Welcome to you get to be in the new order, ladies, but you have old order responsibilities for men who are more and more saying this is a raw deal.
Culture, though, that's pretty irrelevant. Hookup culture doesn't really reward being a stable provider or being kind. And I would even say, to an extent, it doesn't even necessarily reward having a stable job. Like, if you're a woman and you're looking for a long-term partner, then yes.
No, in fact, if you're in a band, you're a rock star drummer, you're a rap artist, you're a small-time crook, we can look at run down the dark triad traits. You'll probably be rewarded for that.
Yes, someone who is making consistently like $60,000 a year, that's really, really appealing. That's really attractive. But if you're really just in it for a night or, a week or two, then you probably, if you care about wealth, are going to be going for someone super wealthy who's able to shower you in luxuries during that short time versus someone who can just provide long-term comfort and like an upper middle class living. And it's funny.
Upper middle class living. Does that sound like the difference between the 20th century for men and the 21st century for women? Old order thinking versus new order thinking. It's not hookup culture. It's female nature. It's just facilitated more. Well, it's not, as I said, like hookup culture is a cope primarily for women. And we can see that it's a cope, not just on the leftist, feminists, purple haired with a septum piercing chicks. It's on the right too. They just don't understand it. They just don't, they're part of the sisterhood and they don't want to be feminists, but they still want to live they still want new order privileges and perks. And we want men to follow along and live in a female primary, female correct social order. And if you don't, you're not a man. You're not an upstanding guy from the 50s. You're not a golden era dude. If you don't fit my role, well, but I've got a $60,000 a year job, which isn't a little bit more than the average in the United States for now. I don't have much prospects, but I got a decent job. Remember what God, I wrote this, or I read this from Roosh back in 2011, I think it was, like 10 years ago. Roosh did this post about what you can expect from the sexual marketplace in the future. And he was Nostradamus about this, man. Was it game plus fame will be the most necessary thing you can have in the 21st century, right? Going forward in the next 10 years. He was like prognosticating like 5 or 10 years in the future, and he nailed everything. Thank you for that, Roosh. I know he's this before he lost his mind, but it was 100% spot on about that. And I'm not talking, you don't have to be like super famous. It helps if you got the blue check mark, right? It helps if you're verified on Instagram. That's a form of e-fame. Shit, I'm e-famous, right? I guess. But that you're not going to see me. I'm not going on Tucker Carlson. I'm still waiting for my call, man. You're not going to see me in the mainstream because I'm too hot for like shit. You won't even see me on Joe Rogan, right? Joe Rogan's, all right. Would you call Joe Rogan mainstream? Maybe he is. I mean, it's just on Spotify, but I mean, I shouldn't say that because he's on Netflix. He's stand-up stuff too. So.
Because nowadays I feel like incels are correctly very, very critical of hookup culture. But MGTOWs, interestingly enough, seem to be.
Did you notice this? Sorry, I keep stopping it, but this is the thing that gets me. It's not hookup culture. It's the way you are. They're like, no incel says, oh, it's hookup culture. No, it's not. It's women on Tinder. It's Gen Z women, and it's at least the latter half of millennial women. It's not, don't blame it on, oh, well, it's just degenerate hookup culture. That is old, as I said in the hookup culture video. But notice what she's doing here, right? Oh, well, it's the hookup culture. We're, who knows, ladies, what can we do? There's this nebulous hookup culture that's out there. Anyway, and some of us are part of it, but oh my gosh, it's really screwing things up for us. If we could just get rid of this, I don't know. It's like a recurring disease that keeps coming back out. This hookup culture. I got this hookup culture on my it's lumbago or gout. No, it's actually, that is the sexual marketplace right now, Lauren. Accept it. Really, you'll be better off if you do.
Be more skeptical of even just marriage in general. And I get that nowadays the court system is totally biased against men. I am not going to argue with that because I don't really think it's arguable.
The core system being gynocentrism
At this point, but still, instead of trying to return to tradition and, you know, do away with things like no-fault divorce and unfair court systems, I feel like so many MGTOWs have decided to just go their own way, which, I mean, obviously it's up to them. They can do as they please. But if you are someone who kind of did want a relationship and you're only eschewing one just because of like political backlash, it doesn't really sound like a good long-term solution to me personally. So at this point, you might be thinking, all right, so hookup culture.
Okay. She's going to use hookup culture for what is generally the sexual marketplace right now. It's not like that there's, oh, this is the nice sexual marketplace over here, and this is the hookup culture one over here. No, Lauren, it's, sorry, the shit's in the soup. The flies in the ointment. The inks in the milk. Okay. I mean, it's the same thing. Okay. It's not, there's no separation between those two. This is pretty good. Let me throw this out there. Have those whom believe in equality myth, like TradCons and such, have an internal social justice warrior of pro-equal program is like English or second language in them as strategy or just conditioning despite that. Oh, okay. So is this like something that's been conditioned in them, or is this pro-tradition? I think that a lot of what passes for TradConism, whatever, traditional conservatism, I guess, right now, is definitely conditioned right now. It's not the 20th century stuff anymore. It's not the it's not your dad's conservatism, right? It's because when I talk about the Sisterhood Über, this is a better example. I'm trying to think how I can illustrate this to you. But when I talk about the Sisterhood Über, I make this point, is that the Sisterhood doesn't care about religion, doesn't care about politics, doesn't care about ethnicity, doesn't even care really about socioeconomic status. Maybe you could make a case there, but if you're a female, if you have female parts, if you have a uterus, you have a seat at the table. If you don't, you don't. And it doesn't matter one way or the other. However gynocentrism is promoted, whether it's on the left or on the right, and now granted, it mostly is promoted through feminism on the, politically, ideologically on the left. It aligns more with leftist policies. It aligns more with that idealism. Okay. But that does not mean that it doesn't exist on the right. What comes to mind right now is, I don't know, I'm going to mispronounce her name, but I think it's, Classic, whatever. She ran for office, I think in 2020, but she ran for, was it governor or Senate in Georgia. And she was a Republican, and she wore this red, all the females there was no males in her political campaign commercials. And it was just these waves of women, and they were Muslim and white and black, Hispanic and whatever. And they were all dressed in red dresses. Or no, were they in white? So anyway, red dresses, walking through the streets and say, we're going to, women rise up and we're going to clean up downtown Atlanta or whatever it is. I've got the actual video somewhere, but I think she lost. I don't think she actually won, but the impetus was the same. Ladies, this is feminism done Republican style. You don't have to look like Lena Dunham to be a feminist. You don't have to identify with being a feminist. You just have to espouse the female empowerment narrative. And if it's couched in Republican politics, if it's couched in traditional conservatism, gynocentrism doesn't care. It wins either way. It wins on the left and it wins on the right. And again, like I mentioned I think it was was it the Peterson video, or maybe it was before that? Men are the producers. We provide, we produce things. We kill the meat and bring it back to the tribe. Women distribute things. Women are far more communitarian. It is written into their firmware. It's written into that red part of the brain. Distribute. Everybody gets an equal pair. We need to make sure that the whole, and I'm not saying that communitarianism isn't a survival adaptation for the human species. It is, but it's not the only one. You want to know why communism and socialism and everything is so appealing to women? Like people, oh yeah, the communists got the feminists. Yeah, well, they did so because it's part of women's basic human female nature is to be egalitarian, to be communitarian, at least on the surface anyways. Like women will, of course, favor their own kids and favor their own, their genetics before they distribute everything else, usually speaking. But if they are put into positions of power, that's how they organize society, is from an egalitarian, communitarian ideal. Men tend to be more meritocracy, right? It tends to be more merit-based, dominance hierarchies. That's why the military is what it is. The military could not exist as anything except a dominance hierarchy because it's men that go do the fighting. That's why I laugh when women talk about like, oh, we're going to put women in the police force. We're going to put women in the military. Like, well, yeah, but those women have to be masculinized to the point where they can at least operate in a dominance hierarchy, because you cannot structure a military based on egalitarianism. It is a fundamental male space. And when you insert women into that fundamental male space, and it could be anything, I'm using the military here, but you tend to reset the game, change the nature of the game. At least you think you can until people start dying. What else do I got here? I got to you. I'm going to keep going down here a little bit. Oops. What did you say? I believe the ideology you may be describing for left and right in modern times is neoliberalism. Okay, well, whatever. You get the idea. Patriarchy versus feminism, right? Whatever. You can name the opposites, but the fact remains is that gynocentrism doesn't care what horse it rides in on. It just rides in. That's why.
Clearly isn't good for most men, so obviously it just must be benefiting women. And I think it's very fair to say that hookup culture ultimately has been driven by women. Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, who hosts the Lotus Eaters podcast, he often says that women are the gatekeepers of sex, but men are the gatekeepers of relationships. And that is just so, so true.
No, it's not. And I'm going to prove to you why it's not, Lauren. Now, here's where I take issue with her. First and foremost, it was not Sargon of Akkad who came up with that. I don't know who did, but I do know that it is as old as 2014. 2016 is when I published this, but I think I quoted something from 2014. So I'm gonna read to you from a. You want me to just put it up? I'll put it up here. Let's share the screen because I haven't shared this screen yet. The Key Masters, one of my seminal posts on the Rational Mail. Go check it out now. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I promise you, I'm not going to bore you with the whole damn thing. But this is a common misnomer. Remember today, children. Today we are going to break some myths about Rollo, Tomassi, the Rational Mail, and the Red Pill, and this is one of those. Sargon of Akkad and whoever else you mentioned, I don't know the dude's name, they did not come up with, men are the gatekeepers of commitment while women are the gatekeepers of sex. Boy, wouldn't that be awesome? I wish that was true. I really wish that was true, but it is not true. And it has never been as untrue as since the sexual revolution. Women control the sex and they control the commitment, or they control the relationship or the potential commitment, let's just say. So I'm going to read you a couple of things here. This is from 2016, well before anybody and Sargon Akkad, Sargon Akkad mentioned this. And this was actually, again, I'm going to quote Rouge. I can't believe it. Let me, here, you can see the whole thing. That's fine. Let's go do that. All right. This is from the Key Masters. And, I could read the rest of this, but actually I want to get down to, so anyways, this whole essay is about exactly what she just, the misnomer that she just said right now. Now, the presumption is this, is that women hold the sex and men hold the commitment. Well, that commitment only makes any difference to a woman if she has value for that commitment with that particular guy. Okay. I had just to give you a little preface here, I had another post called the Paradox of Commitment, which is in, I believe, book 3. And let's see. Okay, so here's a good one. You can even take marriage out of the equation. If I'm in a committed long-term relationship with a girlfriend, and over the course of that relationship, I realize that she's not what I'm looking for any number of reasons, not just sex. Even though she's 100% faithfully committed to me and the long-term and the LTR, should I then break that commitment? If I do, am I then being unethical for having broken that commitment, irrespective of how I break it? Should the commitment to my own personal well-being and future happiness be compromised by another commitment? What's my obligation? Neglect myself in favor of a bad commitment, or to the principle of commitment itself? We tend to hold men more accountable for breaking a commitment than we do for women. And that's because, again, it goes back to the women are the vulnerable sex. We tend to see women as fickle and duplicitous and like children, not unlike children. And so when they break a commitment, then we go, oh, well, she cheated. Oh, she broke the commitment. Well, I can prove this to you in a legal sense too, because we tend to, when it comes to justice, there's a separate standard of justice for men than there is for women. That's simply the way it is. As much as we want to say, oh, we live in an egalitarian society and it's all blank slate, and if what's good for the goose is good for the gander, until that woman commits a crime, the same crime that a man does. Because statistically speaking, at least in the United States, I don't know about other countries, but certainly in the UK and the United States, women are statistically sentenced to prison terms that are way more lenient than they would had the perpetrator been a man. The exact same crimes. So we know that we're less hard, or we expect a different kind of justice for women. This is playing out right now, by the way, with the Elizabeth Holmes thing. The only defense she has for her fraud and her embezzlement is that she was in a really bad relationship. If she gets out of it as a result, you bet your sweet ass I'm going to run that one up the flagpole. So it's my take that commitment should be a function of genuine desire. Ideally, commitment should be to something one is so passionate about that limiting of one's own future opportunities that come from commitment is an equitable and mutually appreciated trade. This is where most guys lose the narrative when it comes to being committed and being in a commitment with a woman, whether it's long-term relationship or a marriage per se. Most guys will stick it out for the kid's sake, or they'll stick it out. They'll try to work on it. They'll try to build back because they have this idea that they have a commitment to the ideal of sticking to your commitments. The idea of commitment is itself a commitment. It's a belief set. And if they break it, then it really causes a lot of cognitive dissonance for guys. So this is, this is unfortunately rarely the case for most people in any form of commitment, because people, circumstance, opportunity, and conditions are always in flux. A commitment that had been seen as equitable sacrifice at one time can become debilitating 5 years after depending on the circumstances. Okay, so that's number one. And this is actually the reason why I disagree with her and Sargon. First of all, Sargon probably pulled this from me, or he pulled it from somebody else. Again, like I said, I'm the R&D department for the Manosphere. All right, so back before Roosh began making his necessities into virtue, he had a pretty good insight about women being the gatekeepers of both sex and commitment. Now, this is Roosh pre-conversion therapy. Okay, this is what he said. A popular Manosphere saying is that women are gatekeepers to sex and men are the gatekeepers to commitment. I wish this was an absolute truth, but it's not. As a collective, women are often gatekeepers to both sex and commitment. Most men reading right now can surely attest to their failed attempts to secure commitment from women they slept with. And if you could poll the entire population of men, you may find that they are the initiators of monogamous relationships more often than women. I agree with this because more men are necessitous. more men are sexually optionless. How do we know this? We know this because of the 80-20 rule. We know that 20% of men get more attention, get the lion's share of attention from 100% of the women. That leaves 80% of guys who are necessitous, and they follow what is called the strategic pluralism theory, meaning that those guys who don't have sexual opportunities tend to put all their eggs in one basket. They tend to have what I call the sniper mentality. They're very eager to lock a woman down because they don't know when their next meal is coming. They're not accustomed to abundance when it comes to women. So logically, their best reproductive strategy is to stick with one woman and put, like I said, all their energy, all their efforts, all their monogamy, all their emotionality into one woman, and to adjust their belief set according to that. So if your religion or your beliefs or your whatever your particular belief sets are, lock in with the blue pill ideal of one man, one woman, and till death do us part and everything else, then your necessity becomes your virtue. So yeah, I'm doing everything the right way, right? Okay, it only makes sense for this to be true. It is way more damaging for a man, and this is Roosh again, it is way more damaging for a man to have his woman sleep with another man and get cuckolded than the other way around. I can show you proof of this too. The 0.5% of the population who are skilled players and have more say with commitment don't put a dent into this common reality. So yes, are there guys who can be the gatekeepers to commitment? Yes, but they are, like he said, 0.5% of the population of guys. As a sex, men have very little say in determining the relationship dynamic. Now, he continues, it would be a nice fantasy for us men to believe that we have a say in relationships and sex. It'd be nice to think that our alpha behavior and our game determines how a relationship can proceed, but often it doesn't. We're just giving the girl what she has already decided on. Do you really think that you're selling televisions to customers who came into the store with the intent to buy bicycles? The girl who falls in love with us wanted to fall in love with us. The girl who had fun with us wanted to just have fun with us, and so on. And even when a girl wants a bicycle, she still wants a certain kind of bicycle. This is why game is a numbers game. Thank you, Myron Gaines. Thank you, Fresh. Because girls are incredibly picky when they are sexually available. The horniest girl in the club who decided on having sex will still have her pick of the litter and opt to get the best that she can. In this case, my friends, the club is the internet. The club is the sexual marketplace. The club is Tinder. The club is, well, she would like to say it's hookup culture. No, the club is all around you. So that's the difference between being a gatekeeper and a keymaster, right? It's like, well, I hold the commitment and she has to do what I want her to do. And she's to be the woman that I want her to be, or there's no commitment for you, honey. Well, guess what? You live in a gynocentric social order that says you slip once. Hell, you don't even have to slip. You could just like have sex with that girl, depending on the country you're in. You have sex with that girl and you do so under false pretenses, like saying, oh, don't worry, honey, I love you. And I'm going to be, I'll definitely marry you. And then you ghost her. Especially in India. If you're in India, that's your ass. They'll send the brown shirts to come get you, right? Because that's go look at anything. What is it? India's Sons. That's a great documentary. I just saw the private viewing of that. But you have to be careful, right? I mean, hell, beta males aren't even. It's criminalized for beta males to even make an approach. If you're socially awkward, if you're introverted, if you're not the bicycle, the kind of bicycle that she's looking for, and you say, hey, I'm a red bike and you're looking for purple bikes, but I'm a red bike. Ew, get away from me, you creep. HR. Well, so who holds the cards when it comes to commitment? Women are still the ones making that post, by the way, the Roosh post, for that clip that I gave you there just a second ago. That was back in I posted that in 2016, but that was from an earlier blog post of Roosh's, I think from 2014 or 2015. And that was even back then. seeing sort of the writing on the wall. Now we look and we say, oh, well, women don't want to marry guys, as we were just saying a second ago. Where was it, the dating gap one? Women don't want to, if they married a blue collar guy, that's what it was. Yeah, here it is. If women marry the blue collar guy and suddenly they outclass him, or they make more money than him, or they are more educated than him while they are married, that eventually triggers a divorce, or she gets a promotion at work. Who's in control of the commitment then? Right? You're not the gatekeeper. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in control of the commitment. Well, that's only as valuable as you are going into the commitment. Most guys don't have that value. What's the average age of first marriage? 29 years old. Do you think you're going to be more valuable at 29 or 37? When will you have if that were the case, if it were the case that, well, women want a commitment and that's why they really want you, and that's why they'll put in the extra effort and wear lingerie for you and try to sex you up and to lock you down. If that were the case and that's all they were looking for, then you would expect to see women just like beating down the doors of guys who are, 29-year-old guys who are still dumb. And they made either have the potential to make a lot of money, or they've already been made, or they're 35, 36, 37 years old and they want those guys. They wouldn't be complaining, as they are, about economically unattractive men because their priorities are different. Lauren?
Yeah, hookup culture would not have been possible unless there were some ladies out there who were just down for promiscuous sex. But before you start thinking that things are all...
So let me just drop that real quick. That is again qualifying. They're damaged. That's the damaged woman. That, she must be damaged. Only women who are feeding this hookup culture. There's something wrong with them. They're low quality. No, they're all like that to some degree. I'm not saying they're all like these rampant ratchet hoes. Okay, but they're still hypergamous. And that's what fires this, fuels the fire.
Unicorns and roses for women in the 2021 dating scene. That simply is not the case. First off, if you are a woman who doesn't just want casual sex and hookups and you are looking for a serious relationship, dating is very hard in 2021. I think dating, if you want marriage and children, is hard for people in general. But I would say, yeah, it still is harder for women because, like Carl says, men are the gatekeepers of relationships. And it seems like men aren't really interested in relationships anymore. It's been a while.
So that's the salient point of this entire video. Men just aren't interested in relationships anymore. Okay, well, now let's back up a little bit here. Lauren is 27 years old. She's been married for 5 years, meaning, let's do some math. That means she got married when she was 22 years old. So I'm not going to disqualify her from saying, oh, well, you haven't been in the dating market for a long time, so therefore you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, but maybe she's got her finger on the pulse. I have to give her that because I've been married for 25 years. I'm not in the dating market, but I make it my business to know that, to know everything that's going on. However, this is where I take issue, because the presumption, again, is based on the false idea that men's commitment is in any way valuable. Men just don't want to get married right now. Well, there's probably two reasons for that. First off, women don't want those guys. That's the easiest part. Okay, we can use the Pareto principle and say, look, the thing that benefits women the most is the ability to use sex, which is she's kind of admitting to here, transactionally, to procure commitment from a guy. Well, if that's not opportunism versus idealism, I don't know what the fuck is. So there you have that right there. Well, let's connect those dots and they look pretty ugly. So when women say, oh, I can't find a guy who's economically unattractive or is economically attractive, that it was, oh, but are all women gold diggers? Are they all damaged? Do they not believe in love? No, their concept of love is based on hypergamy, and hypergamy is opportunistic. It has to be. And again, that's not a judgment call. It all depends on what side of the stick you got, the sharp end or the dull end, and the good end, right? You got the sharp end, nothing I can do about that. But the thing is that commitment is only as valuable as that woman will place the value on that. And that comes strictly from opportunism. And women are, again, this is also, actually, there's 3 points here. Here's the second point. The second point is that's based on the beta buck side of hypergamy, provisioning, protection, and parental investment. Men are just not interested in that. No, they are. They're just not interested in it when you are. The guys that you want to get with, the high value men that I guess we're not calling alphas anymore, right? Those guys, they don't want to have anything to do with you. Yeah, they're definitely not interested when you're 27, 28, 29 years old. They're interested in 22. Yeah, I wonder, how old is Lauren Chen's husband? Like, they got married at 20. She got married at 22. How old was he? Some smart son of a bitch is gonna figure that one out for me. I don't know who she's married to. I like Lauren. I really do. I also like this Lauren better than the other Lauren. But again, it's that TradCon kind of like, it's still mired in this idea of what should be. It should be true, and probably was under the old order way of attraction and getting married. Like she was just saying a minute ago, back in the 50s, if you had a good job and a pension and, a dog in the yard, that made you attractive. Yes, it did. In the old order, in the 20th century, yes, I would definitely agree. Men were the gatekeepers to commitment and women were the gatekeepers to sex. After the sexual revolution, all bets are off, baby. All that went out the window. And it's in 2021 and 21st century, it's never been easier for women to game that system. They don't need that anymore. Women are the gatekeepers of both right now because men gave them the keys to the castle. We don't need you anymore. We don't need men. We want men. Yeah, what men do you want? High value guys that can rock my world in bed. Oh, and then make me, mochaccino or whatever at the, right afterwards and have a cigarette with me, whatever, cuddle with me because he has to, but he's got to be my ideal mate. Prior to the sexual revolution, you're probably right. And you say, well, men aren't interested. No, men can't the average woman is not interested in the average man. That's why. And the average woman still controls the keys to her own sex and for commitment because she's simply not going to get into a relationship. Doesn't have to get into a suboptimal relationship anymore because it's not based on the beta bucks. Her women's mating strategy is prioritized on alpha fucks. Clearly, they spent half the video here talking about, Tinder and everything else. Well, we'll talk about that. And those are just the damaged women, just like Jordan Peterson said. Oh, yes, there's alpha fucks, but that's only for damaged women. Women who are mature, emotionally mature, focus on the commitment and babies and, their future. Man, getting a weird light here today. Sorry. Let's keep going.
While since I was on the dating market, but I still remember how hard it was as someone who did just want to get married, settle down, and have kids and kind of have the traditional picket fence lifestyle. I can't even begin to describe how many guys I would talk to who on the first date or very shortly would say yeah, I don't really believe in marriage. No, I don't want kids. And it's thank you for not wasting my time, I suppose. But that is hard for women. And I know so many women who do just, want to get married, but there aren't really any prospective suitors. And this is especially true in faith communities, for a lot of churches. And I'm sure the same is probably true, in Muslim communities and Jewish communities, different faith communities. The number of devout single women greatly outnumbers the number of devout single men. You go to singles events at these churches and it's just a bunch of girls being
yeah, here's the Kevin Samuels / Rollo Tomassi grift right now. The religion is a big deal right now, and don't think I didn't notice Kevin Samuels hitting on the lack of men in black men in the church these days. And she's kind of picking up on this too. I've seen some other people do this as well. I don't want to say, I think maybe Susan Venker is too, but certainly PragerU has been picking up on this for a long time. And of course, what they say, and again, she's laying at the feet of men. She thinks that the hookup culture or the reason why guys aren't committing is because they don't want to. She's saying pretty much the same thing that our good friend Susan Venker is saying right here. Right? That's exactly the same line. Feminism serves men very well. They can have sex at hello. You guys, incels, can you have sex at hello? And even live with their girlfriends with no responsibilities whatsoever. What is this? This is like baby boom, Jen. This is like post Woodstock. I mean, is this the 70s? Oh, hey, baby, we don't need no contract. Our love is eternal. We're just gonna live together in a commune and grow kale. Here's our kale farm, cilantro and kale. What is that? Again, remember when I talk about how we still recycle old language? This is an old school principle here. Well, men just want that. They want that. Why buy the cow when you can have all the milk for free? No commitment at all. Ladies, close your legs. Lysistrata, right? Will make the men stop the war by not having sex with them anymore. Go look that up, by the way. There's your that's your homework. Go look up Lysistrata. How did that end for the ladies in Lysistrata too? By the way, I believe I'm saying that right. Look that up. You'll laugh. So it's essentially this. It's this presumption. Again, laying this, and this is where I was going with today, and where we're going to wrap up here in 15 minutes, but this is where I was going with this today. Feminism serves men very well. They can have sex at hello, right? They can have girlfriends and live with them. What did I get run up the flagpole for? With Dickhead from Playing with Fire. Oh, what did I say? I said, what is it? Iron Rule of Tomassi number 4 is never move in with a woman, right? Unless you're going to get married to her within 6 months. Again, that's not an endorsement for marriage. It's meant to illustrate a point, which is that when you start living with a woman and you put her name on the lease with you, you're essentially locked in for a year to that relationship, or at least that's the presumption that she's getting when you do something like that. Oh man, we're great together. I need help with the rent. We have sex all the time. Yeah, probably for the first 2 months, 3 months, because then the urgency goes away. Then it goes back to her terms. That's why I said that. So it's not about when I say, hey, don't move in with a girl, keep your living space separate from her. That's not like, I'm not saying that because I'm religious or anything. That's not a moral thing. That's just practicality. That's just pragmatism. You don't want to be on that. You want to maintain at least passive dread, and you can't do that if you're like, okay, this is the first time I'm going to put you on the lease, baby, because I'm committing. Well, partially, but I'm committing. That's a commitment. And put your name on the lease. You're going to pay rent. We're going to live like a married couple. And of course, religious ladies like Suzanne Venker, that rubs them the wrong way because it sounds like old school liberalism. It sounds like hippie shit. Well, we don't need a marriage contract. That's what they think, right? Because that's the only frame of reference. This isn't wait till your father gets home. Go look up that show. You'll laugh. But the idea that women they hold the sex and men hold the commitment. If that were the case, then divorce laws wouldn't be what they are. If that were the case, marriage laws and child custody and even abortion laws, certainly divorce laws, would not be what they are if men were the gatekeepers of commitment. In fact, maybe like I said, maybe they were prior to the sexual revolution, but over the 60 some odd years, 65 years, incrementally, they have lost that leverage. It is not men who are perpetuating the hookup culture or the sexual marketplace. It is unfettered hypergamy. It is women with unfettered hypergamy who don't know anything else. And in fact, to be critical of their choices is to be judgmental, and that's the cardinal sin of emotionalism. You can't be judgmental. How dare you judge me? How dare you? How dare you? Judgmental. You will hear that repeated over and over and over again. Somebody asked me about this. They said, "Have you seen the new Netflix series? It's called Clickbait. It's a limited series. That actually wasn't too bad. There's a lot of red pill lessons in that show. It is primarily female driven. It is, almost exclusively. The men in it, actually, with the exception of one guy, I think are just weak. They're either there's a homosexual couple that's in it. I don't want to ruin it for you. There's homosexual guys that are in it, And there's a husband who is like literally the whole plot premise is this guy is he who he said he was after he was dead. I'm trying to figure that out. But during the lesson, the thing I took away from clickbait was this is, and in damn near every single episode, this was uttered. I won't judge you. People will judge you. It's wrong for people to judge you. The wife who was admitted and caught in like cheating on her husband. The mother says, "I've never judged you." That's oh, it's okay. Come on, honey. I would never judge you. You should have been judging that person. I'm going to do an episode. I think I'm going to do a recorded episode based on judgmentalism, because I think we need more judgment right now. We need certainly discernment, but that is the mantra right now. Listen for that. You want your red pill lens to be a little bit more fine-tuned? Listen for when people say, "Oh, don't be so judgmental. Stop judging me." Or when the woman says, "Don't judge me, but blank," whatever the story that they're going to say. Wait for those, because that's a reinforcement of the idea that you should never judge a woman for her behavior. But it's okay to do it for guys. It's okay to say, well, these guys are the ones who are perpetuating Tinder hookup culture, and they want to live with women when they want the cow's milk, but they don't want to buy for the cow. Thank you, boomer.
Where are the guys? And not only that, but even if you are a woman who is down for all the promiscuity, and you're one of those girls who doesn't want to get married, who doesn't want a child, girl boss, whatever, hookup culture is still not your friends, because there's this little thing.
Something I didn't pick this up. Something like if you're a ratchet hoe, you're a boss. That's a good thing, right? I mean, you're a boss girl. Is that not like Bill? I mean, you got to listen to the language involved in all of this.
Called The Wall. And we've covered stories on this channel of women, kind of in their mid-30s, maybe even 40, who are starting to realize now that they just don't have the same sexual market value that they used to. And I really think
she's even quoting. Lauren, have you been reading my book? Have you been watching this channel? It's funny for me to hear people like her talk about sexual market value. The whole story of 2021, really starting from January on Fresh and Fit, when we talked about is the red pill going mainstream? Yeah. And what did I say? I hope it doesn't, because of this, because of exactly this, because anybody can go and say, "Oh yeah, Rollo said that women can't love men." Sexual market value. What is it? Women are the gatekeepers of sex and men are the gatekeepers of commitment. I think I pretty much ran that one down. But again, why did Rollo say that he doesn't want the red pill to go mainstream? And this, you know what? Why? Because October 2021. That's why. I wish I could go back to that March. It was in March. It was the first weekend of March. I said that on Fresh and Fit. I was like, yeah, I don't want it. I hope it doesn't, because the red pill has to stay, I don't say underground, but it has to be honest and to be dedicated to objective truth, to be objective reality, empiricism, right? To have that obligation fulfilled, it has to be. It can't go mainstream, because people will take it and distort it exactly like this, and you will see. We've come full circle. By the way, we've had suckers like Alba and Preach. We've had suckers like even Kevin Samuels. I'm the R&D department right now for Kevin Samuels. Apparently, you want to know why he's doing his religious stuff? It's because of my book. Surprise, surprise, surprise. The Rational Male Religion goes on Audible the same week that Kevin Samuels decides to start talking about, singles ministries in the church and how men are abandoning the church and how there's nothing for men. Why not just read the book, man? Why not just 33 Secrets? At least I know where he's getting his material from. Why not just read the book? That's why I don't want it to go mainstream. Not because I'm looking for accolades or something. Hell, go use it for what you want. This is the official story. I said that back in March. Somebody's going to take it and they're oh, I'm now the authority on the red pill. And Lauren Chen is the authority on the red pill.
that these women have it worse out of everybody. I mean, think about it. If we are just going off of hookup culture and one night stands and you're a guy, would you rather hook up with someone who is 40 or someone who is 23? And I really
So women have it worse because the wall. I wonder if she picked that one up from me, but women have it. What is it? Hookup culture is horrible, and women, was it women are going for the 20%, or the top 20% of guys, and guys are 80% of guys don't get the callback. What was she saying earlier? Women most affected. Guys, it's all your fault. Shape up, men.
I think that these older women have it the worst in this whole setup we find ourselves in. Yes, even though they largely have done this to themselves through their own choices, they're one of the few people who aren't really in a position to change their prospects because largely they've already missed the boat on it. All of this has been, I guess, very negative, and it's probably not put people in a good mood, especially if you are still single. But the reason why I mention all of this is because these problems are fairly new, and this kind of stuff didn't happen back when marriage and partnering for life was the norm. I'm at an age, I'm 27, where I'm sure as heck not getting any younger, but unlike some women who are still single and looking for a boyfriend or someone to settle down with, because I did choose to invest my youth in finding a long-term partner, the prospect of aging doesn't worry me. Like in my case, aging is actually a good thing because that means I get to see my kids grow up, I get to see grandchildren, and I know that I have a partner who is invested in me regardless of what I look like. And I would like to think that my husband also is
whoa, slow down. Actually, I think we're gonna be done here in a second, but get back to me at 37, Lauren. Lauren, you want the red pill? Let me give you some advice. It does matter what you look like. Please don't turn into a beach ball. Lauren, don't think you're cute, right? You're hot, but you're cute, right? Don't blow it. Don't blow it by thinking that that's not a big deal, because it is a big deal to guys. If it weren't, guys wouldn't be using things like Tinder.
benefiting from this marriage too. He doesn't need to be one of those guys who's not getting matches on a dating app and not having women respond to him, even though, I mean, okay, if I'm being realistic, he's a cutie, so he probably would be getting matches, but you know what I mean. Women and men have so much to offer each other besides just money or sex or looks, but the thing is, hookup culture doesn't reward any of those things, so essentially people are being priced at their most basic values, which is not good for anybody. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say for now. And
okay, so basic values, right? Okay. Again, let's rewind. Time to review, children, because we're just about to close the doors here. Don't leave yet. Don't head out the door yet. I haven't given you the worship team hasn't come up yet to give you the final song, but let's review here, because what she just did was reiterate what I said earlier about sexual market value being conflated with personal worth. Marriage market value, right? Yeah, that's enough. What would those ephemeral, esoteric things be that would make marriage official, long-term, in front of church and God and your friends and the state? What would make it worth that? Now, if you read The Rational Male Religion, there is a very thick, I think the biggest chapter I wrote was about marriage. And I also talked about, by the way, single women's ministries. I also talked about single mothers ministries. Kevin, why don't you hit those ones up? Because I think those are probably next on the list. Hit those. Go look at that. Go look at the hustle economy for women in ministry right now. Because there's a lot of black women in there too. If you want to just stick to the black community, there's a lot of black women who've got their Gumroad course for, getting right with God and being a single mom. There's lots of them. There's a lot. There's with books and, suddenly the hustle economy has made women in ministry like as easy as it's ever been. They don't call it that because women are supposed to, at least ostensibly, not allowed to, teach men and not to be allowed to be a pastor or whatever, which is bullshit because too many churches make that Christian kosher right now. But it wouldn't matter anyways. Because what women do, who are called to lead, called to ministry, you know what they do? They go, oh, I can write a book and have it self-published and put it on Gumroad. That's easy. I can do all the things like John from Modern Life Dating's doing. Any of these dating coaches, any of these fitness coaches, any of these success coaches, any of the nutritionists, anybody who's in the hustle economy, the ministry for women is just another niche in the hustle economy. Hit that one, man. I'll give you that for free. Go do it. Please do. Please do that, Kevin. If you're watching this show, go do that. They're all over the place. There's conventions. There's a convention industry for single mothers who are they can't go to church, so they go to conventions instead, right? Or there might actually, maybe there might be single mommy ministries too, I think. But that's because the real reason for that, of course, is because women have infiltrated the church. And all churches, by the way, I don't care if you're Muslim, I don't care if you're Indian or Hindu, I don't care if you're Jewish. Again, covered it all in the book. Don't throw rocks at me. Go read the book first and then throw rocks at me. That's the process, guys. But again, the marriage value versus, commitment. Yay. No, she controls the commitment. She controls the sex. She controls the commitment. She controls the marriage. As I've said before, if your final destination is the altar, if your final destination is to get married, you have to remember this, is that it used to be, prior to the sexual revolution, it used to be that marriage was a place that validated sex. Now, marriage is a confirmation that you guys are sexually compatible. That's from Dalrock, by the way. Marriage is not, and marriage used to be a place that was a place for a man and a woman to have sex. But now marriage is sort of a confirmation for couples who've already had. Are we compatible? Yes. Are we in love? That's why I wrote that. There's a chapter in book 4 called Love is God, because what we've done is we've made love, at least in a female idealistic perspective, we've made love into a deity rather than the other way around. So what happens is when we say, oh, well, when we get married, when we get married, it's like, oh, we're going to make us official. You're going to make me an honest woman. I don't think people really realize it's a euphemism, but we don't really realize what we're saying. We're going to make our love official. Remember when same-sex marriage got confirmed by, I think it was Obama in 2015? What did they say? All over the place. What was the number one, jingoism? Love wins. That's what it was. Love wins. It's like escalating and raising it to a supernatural level. That is like a dangerous place to be. I wanted to add that into all of this here. But when we look at a female primary society, when we look at a gynocentric social order, when we look at a female correct way of thinking, most guys, particularly guys who are like male allies without even knowing it. Remember when I said about how the sisterhood doesn't care about political stripe. It doesn't care about ethnicity or religion or anything like that. When you are a properly trained, mangina, right? When you're a properly trained, ally, feminist female ally, you might not identify as that. Like women don't call men, especially feminists, don't call men men. In fact, we can't even use the 3 letters in succession, M-A-N. Can't be fireman, it's fire person, right? We want to eliminate that from the English language. Why? Why do we want to do? Why is that such an effort? So what happens is when we are put, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat right now. When we are prioritizing women as the correct way to experience life, when we're saying whatever benefits women should benefit men, when we start thinking in those terms, we don't realize that we are. So when guys throw rocks at me, when guys give me shit about sexual marketplace or this or red pill that or whatever, it's that what they're struggling with is that programming, the programming that is in the blue part of the brain, right? The software. Because what my software is saying and my firmware, but what my software is saying is it's conflicting with your software, what you've learned. And in many cases, and even Lauren here probably doesn't realize that a lot of the stuff she's talking about, maybe she does. She just doesn't want to be overt about it. But a lot of the stuff that she's getting into, and like I said, I agreed with a lot of it, is red pill. But I bet she doesn't identify as being red pill in the terms of like, as I would like, Rollo Tomassi is red pill. But she is, just for the wrong reasons, and she doesn't know how she gets to it. She's oblivious. She's red pill, but she's oblivious to the fact that she's red pill. The same thing is true for guys who are critics, who are living in this ideal when it comes to like gynocentrism or female correctness or the right thing or the right way to think. They don't realize that they are feminist allies. They don't realize that they're still blue pill. They don't realize that they're a fish. They don't even know that they're a fish that doesn't know it's wet, because they don't ask the right questions until I come along, and then they go, wait. We better throw all kinds of shit at this guy right here about stuff that we have no idea what he's talking about, because it conflicts with us being the fish that doesn't know it's wet. We have to misconstrue everything, because that's the only way we can protect our egos. It's the only way that we can protect our belief set and our ego investments in those belief sets. That's why. So it's hard for me to like take too much offense when people like completely misconstrue stuff, whether deliberately or ignorantly, stupidity or malice, right? It's hard for me to take offense to that, because a lot of guys are unaware of what the fuck they're even talking about in the first place. They go on what they think should be right according to what their programming has been. So there you have it. Let me, who do I have? Let's see if I can catch up here. Sorry, it's been a little bit long. My apologies. Both Laurens annoy me. Well, one annoys me a little bit more than the other. Hookup culture equals cope for women. That makes sense. Thanks, Godfather. Can I get a hello for my children? Oh, yeah, you can.
Hello there, children. How's it going?
All right. You can have this too.
Stump that bitch.
There you go. Hey, Semper Fi. Semper Fi. Fidelis, right? Fidelis, I believe the ideology maybe describing left and right. Okay, I already got to that. Okay, let's go back. Back. Okay. Did I get to you? Oh boy, I got a lot here. Hang on one second. Oh boy. Oh, okay, here we go. Now I see it. Okay. Ian S said base shirt. Oh, I got to that one. Yeah, definitely did get to that one. The Rift, thank you for all you do. The Rift, okay. Nick Corcodilas, thank you. Corcodilas. That's Greek, right? Pull that off. Technological chaos. Just from this take, Lauren sounds like the kind of girl that will go to male prison and justify herself that most of the prosecutor are just misunderstood. Mustang, what's this trend with women feigning sympathy for average men? It's not about guilt. It's about struggling for explanations. But let me finish the rest of your thought here. It says, they don't care. They can't. And men who don't know better buy it and end up back where they were, fulfilling the female imperative. Okay. The mistake is this, Miss Mustang, is to think that there is any kind of contrition on the part of women. And that's not because they're not empathetic or maybe they don't want it. It's what it is. And I shouldn't say it's not 100% that. It's not about like, oh, I feel bad for these guys. I want to do a show to make them feel better and give them hope, right? Oh, white pill. That's not what it's about. What the white pill is about, and what Lauren is about, and what Lauren is about, and what Susan Venker is about. It's not. They want men to take responsibility. Well, this looks pretty screwed up. But the only answer I have for this screw up is it's men's fault, and they need to take more responsibility. But Lauren, Susan, they don't have the responsibility to, or they don't have the authority to enact that responsibility. Oh, does not compute. Software the equation doesn't balance. What do I do? Right? Oh, well, I got to make these guys feel better. I got to find some way to justify the way that I think about this. I got to find some way to rationalize why what exists. And it sounds like contrition. It sounds like, oh, you poor guys, but it's not. It's a really shitty place. And yeah, I agree. You guys are in a bad place, but it's your own fuck up. And the only way out of it is more responsibility for you. Thanks. Bye. Don't be sure to subscribe. Mountain Man Chuck. Oh, dedicated reader watching since 2017. Letting go of invisible friends was most impactful essay that made me red pill aware. Stay based. I will, Red Mountain Man Chuck. Rodrigo De Silva. Do you know the name of the know your name from the Manosphere? But I'm here for the first time. Oh, good. Hell, this brought me faster than a beta male hits a 304. Okay. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, brother. Go get the book. Technical chaos. Have those who have been in equality myth. Okay, I answered that one. Rude Salim Iri. How does something like the Texas abortion ban affect women's hypergamy? It does, because what happens is anything that challenges women's ability to have 100% power and control over their sexual selection process is a challenge to hypergamy. That can be no sex before marriage. That can be prearranged marriages. That can be, that can be what Lauren was saying. That can be, I got to find a guy. He's not that hot, but he has really good prospects and he makes a lot of money and he's a good provider and he would really love me, and beta bucks. I got to better settle for this guy. That's something that, like, when women relied on men, were dependent on men for provisioning, protection, and parental investment, that removed a certain degree of power and autonomy over sovereignty over hypergamy, which we've given to women 100%. That's why any challenge, anything that says you can't kill a kid as soon as it comes out of the womb, anything that says that is a challenge to women's sexual selectivity, which goes back to existential fear. That existential fear is that somebody might do the sexual selection for her in some way. Rud Salam. Both Laurens annoy me. Yes, they do. Semper Fi. Yes. Technical. I got to you. I believe the idea. Okay. Saeed. True feminism serves a small group of men. I disagree. Never been easier to stand out, as most men don't do work. Okay. Well, feminism is the gynocentrism. Yes. Feminism. No. Feminism is just it's the religion of gynocentrism, but it is it's the arm. It's the physical arm. It's what gets the work done of gynocentrism and female correctness, which is involved in that. Feminism is just the active arm of the body of gynocentrism. So if you say, I'm a feminist and I believe this, and if you don't, then you are a misogynist and you don't believe in equality. How do I argue against that? We should all be good, right? We should all be good men, allies. And I don't want to be. Do you want to be a misogynist? I don't want to be a misogynist. I would disagree, though. I don't think that it serves the feminism. No, but I would say unfettered hypergamy definitely does. But we won't have that conversation because we want to say that the worst aspects of the consequences, the aspects of hypergamy that used to be buffered by patriarchy, by the church. You want church? Here's your church. By the church, by social stigma, all that's gone. So what's left? Women's unflattering hypergamous nature. That's why they have to cover that up with feminism. Oh, feminism works for men. No, it is your hypergamous nature that works for men, the top 20% anyways. You don't want to have that conversation because it's easier to use feminism as the cover story. It's easier. Oh, it's feminine. If it weren't for feminism, we'd all be much better shape. But now, those men, They just want to bang you left and right. And Tinder and hookup culture and everything. It's all feminism that has unleashed men's sexuality. Bullshit. And every statistic will prove that wrong. In fact, Lauren Chen's whole build up to the end of this pretty much was the last nail in the coffin for that discussion. Susan Vinker, thank you very much. Bullshit. Oh man, who are we bullshitting here? The guys that are remember the Reddit post she read in the very beginning? Who are we bullshitting here? That she just said that as a woman, I tried to impersonate a man, and boy, it's really tough for guys. Well, must be feminism. Must be all these guys ruining it for these other guys. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, you're insane. Rude Salim Ari says, how does something like the abortion ban change women's hypergamous strategy? I already told you this, dude. Does it seem like the Texas ban is a response to unfettered hypergamy? No, it's not. It's a political move. Nothing else. They need something. They had to do something. I talked about this, by the way. There's a gosh, what was it? I don't remember the title. I did an episode in May where I predicted exactly what's going on in Texas. And then also look at Mississippi too, because Mississippi has another abortion law that's coming up. Also, did you guys see the protests in Los Angeles over the weekend or this weekend? I think it was yesterday, maybe. I mean, tens of thousands of people were certainly in the streets, and they're all women and they all had placards. And it was like the Great Women's March. I only saw it because I follow certain accounts on Twitter, but I didn't see anything in the mainstream about it. I didn't see anything on Newsmax or anything either, and I would figure they'd cover it of anybody, but they didn't. Peric. Hey, Rollo, off topic. The hoop earrings topic you always mention. Where can I find more about that? Oh, you don't need to go find any more about that. Your live stream or blog. Thank you very much, from Croatia. Okay. When I joke about hoop earrings, what that is it's from Marty Hazelton's work on sexual ornamentation. Okay. So go look up, I just Googled this. You don't even have to go look on my site. Look up the concept of sexual ornamentation, which means that when a woman is in estrus or she's ovulating, she's in the proliferative phase of her menstrual cycle, she tends to do what's called sexual ornamentation. Wearing a tight red dress at the club. That's announcing to every available guy, eligible guy, I am in estrus and I'm DTF, right? Hoop earrings are also part of that sexual ornamentation. Don't ask me why. It just is. How do I know? Go look at I wouldn't know. I just have to ask my friend Sterling Cooper about this, but look at any porn movie. The next porn movie you're snapping one out to, look at the earrings. Look at the style of earrings that women wear when they're doing that. I would say 90% of women in porn, when they're doing a scene, they've got some degree of hoop earrings on. That's why I joke about that. So hashtag hoop earrings. That means she's ovulating. Red dress, ovulating. If she's got that husky, sexy voice, probably ovulating. She did herself to the nines, right? She's in high heels. Channel 1800 dumb. You're back. Good present, Rollo. Fellows MGTOW is also crimson. We also have different ways of. Okay, well, okay, yeah. MGTOW get the diagnosis right. I don't think they get the practice or the solution or the cure right, but they definitely get the diagnosis right. Thank you, Rollo. This is Big Bandy. Big Bandy. You provide life-changing information. Thank you. Nice shirt. Yes, they were great too in concert, by the way. I just saw them back in beginning of September. They're here with Megadeth and Trivium, which is one of my favorite bands of all time too. Walt Mosher, 4 books and 20 years later is making any impact in academic research and professional literature circles. Is the ice thawing ever submit for peer review publication? No, because nobody will take me seriously. I'm lucky to be self-published, quite honestly, Walt Marsher. In fact, in no other era could I do what I do right now. And in no other era could you respond to me in the way you just did right now. ML, huge PR issue when Lauren is going to divorce her partner. Which one? Both at the same time. Wouldn't that be tripping out? Would you trip out if both of them like got divorced at the same time? I know I would. Black sheep. I can't thank you enough, Rollo. Well, yeah, you can. Thank you for the $99, my friend. I turned 30 in June, and just like you said, when I first started following you, every single mom, unhappy wife, younger and older than me, and older single ladies are approaching me for a relationship. Yeah, well, here's your lesson for the day, by the way, Black Sheep. Excellent episode. Thank you for your $100. I appreciate it. But yeah, be careful. You're in a very precarious situation because if you have done the most with yourself and maximized your potential, and you are in that demographic of guys between, like, say, 34 and 37, somewhere around there, you're a mark. And women are quite open about that. Chemo. I think Kevin is talking about the church because Creflo Dollar came for his head. Really? Creflo Dollar came at Kevin Samuels. Wow. Kevin also says he spent time leading couples ministry. That's news to me. Maybe he's using your work, but the church came for him. Maybe so, but I hear a lot of the same language used by, well, at least in that episode anyways. I didn't watch the whole thing. His stuff goes kind of long. Like here I am at 3 hours, but like it was kind of long. What else is in here? Then I missed Chemo. I got to you active. Okay. Yeah, I did catch up. Okay. Don't give me any more because I got to get out of here. Sad that Lauren didn't even mention your name. Both Laurens are close friends, and it's no coincidence she uploaded this right after yours with Southern. Yeah. Well, you know what? I would almost like feel better going on with Lauren Chen. Like, Lauren, if you watch this, like, hit me up, man. What are your thoughts on F&F bringing in mostly dark triad women and how they are in no way representative of the healthy, well-developed women? Do you have any basis for it? Do you have any stats for this? Because it's very easy to say, well, ratchet hoes are dark triad. Not all. Well, so, when I've been on there, then certainly not all. In fact, some of them, none of them were really what I would call dark triad. Are they dark triad because they don't, because they're I guess Machiavellianism would be the overwhelming one, wouldn't it? I don't think so. It's again, that's the quality woman evasion. Well, they're all ratchet hoes. They're all damaged women. They're all dark triad. Well, that doesn't represent all women. No, but and dark triad, by the way, is very rare in women. It's far more pronounced in men, as you might guess. I think what is it, like sociopaths, like sociopathy. 7.8% of the population, at least in the United States, is men, right? For women, I think it's like 2.7 or 2.8. Those are the statistics. Like the last ones I saw. This is out of David Buss's book, by the way, which is Men Behaving Badly. The incidence of like true diagnosed sociopathy or psychopathy. I can't remember. One of those. It's probably a big distinction. Sorry. I want to say that it is sociopath, like sociopaths. I remember the male stat was 7.9% of our population is male, and then of sociopaths in the population, 2.9% are women. So statistically speaking, if we're going to say dark triad, because psychopathy, sociopathy, whatever, psychopathy, would be, I would say, is included in that. So be very cautious in like diagnosing, especially the women on Fresh and Fit, with psychopathy or dark triad traits, because everyone comes on. You think that they're like going, we're in the club here, Chris Pogson, I love you. Well, she looks like she's got psychopathy. Yeah, get her. Hey, baby, put your number in here and we'll put you on Fresh and Fit. Do you think that they like have a filter for that? Or do they just go and just like say, she's hot, let's get her on. She's on Instagram, get her on. She's, well, granted, maybe they're finding these girls in the clubs. I don't know how they source them. When I was on with Torsia, the last time I was there, Torsia's my girl. Okay. I sourced Torsia. Thank you. Love you. But I don't know. Is she psycho? I don't know. Torsia. Do you have dark triad, Torsia? Are you something wrong? Something very, very wrong with her. Go look at Torsia's site. She's in the chat. I see her right here. Go look at her site. Go look at the interview. I did like a half an hour interview with her. Go watch that and then get back to me. Go. I want you to do this. Here's your experience. Here's your homework, children. Go to Torsia's site, watch my interview with her, and then you tell me if she's a psychopath that I should get away from. Fatal attraction. There you go.
Stump that bitch.
That's for you. So since women have absolute control over sex and relationships, what would you theorize would be the end result if this trend continues? It will continue until the bus crashes. That's the best way I can put it. It will continue as long as we give authority, we cede 100% authority to women. It will continue until the bus crashes. And then it will be like, oh, my bus crashed. My toys broke. I need a man to fix it. Then things will change. It's the meteorite, right? The meteor has to hit the world. Sorry, not sorry. One man's chorus. Would you say that women who raise their sons transgender are practicing a form of postnatal abortion? No, but I will tell you what I do think. Since it's virtually guarantees that the child will not pass on genes. That's an interesting theory. I think there's a simpler one to describe it though, which is that in cultures that favor one gender over the other, we will find ways to either it's like eugenics. It's like social eugenics. It's not like the Nazis or something like that. Okay. It's like a social eugenics program. A real eugenics program is giving women 100% authority and control over the human reproductive process. That's eugenics. You don't have a uterus. You have no seat at the table. That's eugenics. Hell, breeding dogs is eugenics if you think about it, but that's the thing. So I don't think it's so much about like passing on genes, although that might be part of it. I don't know. Let me look. I'll check back. Let me circle around to you on that. But I think that the simpler explanation is that in, like I said before, in cultures, this is straight out of Matt Ridley's The Red Queen, by the way. In cultures where one gender is preferred, the society will find ways to reinforce that or try to find ways to maximize the benefits of that one gender being part of the family. So, for instance, when in the 80s, when China had the one child policy, who did they opt for? The most beneficial one would have been a son. And so therefore you have all these feminists running, riot about like, oh, they're drowning little girls in the Yangtze River, right? They're aborting little girls and they're keeping boys, which is funny to me because like now I see like occasionally somebody will send me a story about some feminist who said she was having like quintuplets, but she aborted like the 2 boys and kept the 3 girls, which is some fucked up shit if you think about it, but nobody blinks an eye. Like, this can't be true. But when we talk about China's one child policy and how, couples would abort a female child in preference for a male child, now the social fallout from that is that they have a huge, 40 million more males in China, or billion more. I don't know, it's not billion, 40 million more males in China. At least this is the last I heard. Then can reproduce, then can have a woman. That's going to make for some really serious shit. So there's fallout to it, but I would say that the push for transgenderism is this. Well, if you have a little boy and you're like, oh, I really want a little girl, but I can't kill the kid, and start over. So how about, you like dolls, Jimmy? Let's dress him up in non-gender specific clothes and see which way he goes. By the way, that is a recipe for disaster. They've been doing that since the 70s. Another holdover from vestige of the 70s, by the way. is trying to raise a child in a gender neutral fashion, and it always ends up like damaging the child psychologically. How does Iron Rule number 3 apply to virgin? I already answered this earlier on. To a virgin girl who wants to wait till marriage, if you are still spinning plates, high value, and are still interested in marriage, is it worth it given that they are rare? You mean you or her? Is it still worth it to wait? Is it still worth? Oh, no. And I'll tell you why. Here, and this will really, rub Lauren, the other Lauren, the wrong way. Is the sex is probably still never worth the wait because you're still waiting for it. It's not a chemical process. It's not like she's right there and, ready to go down on you, right? It's not that. Remember what I read here. Okay. It's about genuine desire. Now, here, this would be my caveat. Okay. At the very rare, at the end of the bell curve exception to all of this. My caveat is this. Is that woman willing to break rules for you? Or is she making, I don't care if she's a virgin. I don't care if she's, like I said, the girl from the Amish Dutch country in Pennsylvania, whatever. I don't care. Does she make rules for you or does she break rules for you? That's what that rule is about. It's about determining genuine desire. That's really what it comes down to. Is she breaking rules? She says, you know what? I'm a girl in the Amish Dutch country and I want to convert to whatever religion you are, brother, because I want your babies. Is she willing to have sex? Is she willing to break her conviction and being like saving herself for marriage and being a virgin, whatever? Is she willing to break that rule? I'm not saying she should. I'm not saying you should even go with it. I'm saying, is there the desire to break that rule to actually have sex with you? I don't care anymore. I want you so bad that all that stuff about virginity and everything else that I held so highly, go hit up Lolo Jones, right? She at 38, when she's never supposedly, allegedly a virgin still. Was she willing? Is she that hot for you that she'll go, I'll give it all up for you? Was it Eva Mendes and Jake Gyllenhaal? That's what it was. Does she want to have your babies or does she just time to have babies? That's the difference. Is she making rules or is she breaking rules for you? Is there something that is mitigating genuine desire? When I wrote that rule, it was usually guys going, well, yeah, I'm on date 6 and I got a peck on the cheek, man. Don't worry. I'll just wait this out. She said I was a perfect guy. If I just waited till we were 30, then she'd bang me. 4 years, but yeah, she's worth it. Or the guy who's like, doesn't understand why, like I'm not saying every lay has to be a same night lay. Then that's the bonehead binary extreme bullshit that I have to deal with all the time. Even Lauren Southern was all about that. Well, what about this? That's whataboutism. I deal with generalities. Most guys are having sex. Most women are having sex. Most women are not the rare virgin who is from, another country, who's been sequestered in the forbidden city by the emperor, who has bequeathed you with this holy virgin who's never unblemished and untouched and never even looked upon by a man in her entire life. What would I do? How does that fit in? It doesn't. Because that rule is based on generalities that are going on right now. As Lauren Chen has been talking about for 15 minutes, about longer than that. Oh, Rollo doesn't know how to answer it. Fuck you. I do know how to answer it. And that's it. The answer is this, is that if a woman is making you wait, that is a rule. That is the rule. She's making you wait. Well, what if she sees you as boyfriend material? The rule still applies. You're waiting. Let me explain this to you. Is the sex going to be that like quality wise or like desire wise, investment wise, everything? Like, because guys will say, well, it's not always about sex. Yeah, well, it is if you ain't getting it. Because it is If she's saying, yeah, I want to see if you're the right guy, your boyfriend material, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, she's telling her friends that she's got, meanwhile, she's banging the hot guy in the foam cannon party, getting free sex, that's breaking her rules to get with that one guy. Because there's no mitigation for the guy that she wants to bang. And there's lots of mitigation and there's lots of rules for the beta that she says, hey, he might be good boyfriend material. I don't want him to think I'm loose. She doesn't care if the guy in the foam cannon party thinks she's loose, because she is. And she's all about it. And that's what she wants to do. Oh, you're saying all women are like that. No, I'm not. I'm just saying those are the priorities. If she's making you wait for sex, there is something that is mitigating it. There's some rule. Maybe that rule is, well, I want to save myself for marriage. Well, is the sex going to be amazing? Is it going to be the best sex you ever had because you wait? Or is it going to be better sex because she says, you know what? I just want to. What was it? No, it's the Eddie Murphy. Here, I'll end it with this. There's the Eddie Murphy bit, right? Would you rather have a woman say, make love to me, Eddie? Or would you rather have a woman say, fuck the shit out of me, Eddie? What like the difference between those two? Make love to me. Stop talking like that. Or fuck the shit out of me. Which one's more genuine? Which one's more authentic? Which one is going to be, which one has mitigating which one's making rules and which one's breaking rules in that sense? I got that from Eddie Murphy's Raw. Go watch it. That's really good too. Torsha. Hey, Barry. Tuition fees. Thank you very much. Red Pill changed my life. You and Rich Cooper are bloody legends. You guys are you got a bloody legend. Oh, shit. I got to do the UK. You said bloody. Do you have any comments on how the gynocentric social order and lockdowns, root beer flow mandates are related? Well, I can, the first thing that comes to my mind right now is like one of the first things everybody wanted to say when all of this went down was that countries that are run by women are going to be better off in the pandemic and the lockdowns because women. Now, I can show you stats that say there is absolutely no difference or worse off in those countries. They're worse off in those countries. In fact, thank you also. Was it not Steve Sturt Williams? It was, where'd he go? No, not Rolf. There it is. There's Rob Henderson. Rob Henderson is the one who informed me of that. But I think it's fascinating that's the go-to. Oh, well, women are going to be those countries. Sweden is run by a feminist government. They're already well off. New Zealand, they're already well off. Meanwhile, in Australia, they're beating up old people for not wearing a mask, and they've got some female health minister that's enforcing it. People's Republic of Involuntary Celibacy. There you go. Boyan in an LTR. If you're significant others, okay, don't call it that. Don't call it significant other. Starts losing desire. Are your only options spinning plates or kicking her out of the streets? Transactions obviously go no. No, you here's what you do. First place, stoke passive dread. Increase, grow stronger. Increase passive dread. See what that does. That's the best. That's the first thing I can tell you to do. That's an easy one to do. Let's see. I got to back up here. Let's see. One man's chorus. Would you say women who raise sons transgender? I got to that. Godfall. Okay, I got to that. Lev, I got to you. Drape Tillman. Sorry, I didn't get to you. Just finished religion. As Darth Vader said, most impressive. Most impressive. By the way, Empire Strikes Back. That was the only real movie in the series. Well, I don't know. The first one was good too. I know. Torsha will say, I love you. And I'll go, I know. Before I go to the freezer. Before you get frozen in carbonite. All right. That's good enough for today. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate every one of you. I have no doubt, if it hasn't already begun, I have no doubt that there's probably going to be people who are going to be shit talking me. So just get ready for it. I don't care. Announcements. I will be in Lake Tahoe this week from Monday through Friday, actually. So probably no show, actually definitely no show on Friday, unless I give you a special surprise, because Sterling Cooper and Justin Waller and our good friend Tom, who is an associate of ours, are coming out to Tahoe too, and I will be hosting them and showing them around the Tahoe Basin, probably the Rim Trail. We're going to take my wave runners out, and we will probably be mountain biking and doing non-sexy man stuff. We're going to be doing outside, I don't know, hiking, biking, fun stuff in the woods stuff, mountain man stuff, and we're not going to grow crazy beards. They've got we all of us have. I rented a place. They rented a place. They're in the Keys. I'm in the forest, and I'll be with my greyhounds, my boys. So we will be up there for the duration of the week. So look for if you're looking for new material, it's always coming up on the Clips channel. If you haven't subscribed to the Clips channel, you can find it in my main channel, or else just go look up Rational Male Clips. That's easy enough to find. We're already, gosh, Tom, we're already at 22,000, 21 and a half, something like that. And it's only been around for, gosh, it hasn't been 2 months yet. And we're doing we're kicking ass with the Clips channel. So go get involved in that. That's a lot of fun. I think the commentary is a lot more heavy in that than my main, which is, please give me comments. But go check that out. The Clips channel is there's always new material coming up on that. It's usually clips and breaks from this. If you want like a short form kind of thing, most people kind of bug out at about like half an hour to an hour of this show. But if you want the salient points, if you want the spicy stuff, you want the spicy meatballs, those are on the Clips channel. Go check that there. And like I said, if Sterling and Justin want to do it, I'm going to bring my mobile kit with me. So we might do some video, and I might upload it either to my channel or their channels. I will let you guys know. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. And congratulations to Kevin Savo for his premiere of The Opener, which is his independent film that just opened on October 1st. Go look him up on YouTube. Go look him up on Instagram, and follow him and the fellows. There's the guys that did the Thought Mommies video that I was in, and the Save a Hope episode that I was in. Also, got a very special cameo treat coming up for you in the 3rd episode of Save a Ho. I'm not going to say who it is, but you guys can probably guess. And that'll be it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys live at least next Sunday or Saturday, because I'm doing Rule 0. Okay, see you guys. Bye.